Second Chronicles chapter 1 Solomon at the Gibeon. Solomon son of David strengthened his hold on the kingdom, for the Lord his God was with him, making him ever greater. Solomon summoned all Israel, the commander of the thousand of the hundred, the judges, the prince of all Israel, and the family heads. And accompanied by the whole assembly, Solomon went to high place at the Gibeons, because the tender meaning of God made in the wilderness by Moses, the Lord's servant, was there. David had, however, brought up the ark of the God from Kiriath-Jearim to Jerusalem, where he had provided a place and pitched a tent for it. The bronze altar made by Bezalel, son of the Uri, son of the Hur, he put in front of the tabernacle of the Lord. There Solomon and the assembly sought out the Lord. And Solomon offered the sacrifice in the Lord's presence on the bronze altar at the time of the meeting. He sacrificed 1,000 burnt offering upon it. That night God appeared to Solomon and said to him, "Whatever you ask, I'll give you." Solomon answered God, "You have shown great favor to David my father, and you have made me king to succeed him. Now, Lord God, may your word to David my father be confirmed, for you have made me king over a people as numerous as the dust of the earth. Give me therefore wisdom and knowledge of the government this people, for otherwise who could rule this vast people of the yours?" God then replied to Solomon, "Because this has been your wish, you did not ask for riches, treasure, and glory, or the life of those who hate you, or even for long life for yourself. For you have asked for wisdom and knowledge in order to rule my people over whom I have made you kings. Wisdom and knowledge are given you. I will also give you riches, treasure, and glories, such as the kings before you never had, nor will those who come after you." Solomon writes. Solomon returned to Jerusalem from the high place at the Gibeon from before the time of the meeting and became king over Israel. Solomon amassed the chariot and horses. He had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horses. This he allocated among the chariot cities and to the king's service in Jerusalem. The king made silver and gold as common in Jerusalem as stone and cedars as numerous as the sycamores of the Shephelah. Solomon's horses were imported from Egypt and Cilicia, where the king's agent purchased them at the prevailing price. A chariot imported from Egypt cost 600 shekels of the silver, a horse 150 shekels. So they were exported to all the Hittite and the Aramean kings. The preparation for the temples. Solomon gave order for the building of the house for the name of the Lord, and also king's house for himself. Second Chronicles chapter 2. Solomon lifted 70,000 men to carry stone and 80,000 to cut the stone in the mountains, and over these he placed 3,600 overseers. Moreover, Solomon sent this message to Huram, king of the Tyre, "As you dealt with David my father, and sent him cedars to build a house for his dwelling. Now I am going to build a house for the name of the Lord my God, and to consecrate it to him, for the burnt offering of fragrant incense in his presence, for the perpetual display of the showbread, for burnt offering morning and evening, and for the Sabbaths, new moons, and the festival of the Lord our God, such is Israel's perpetual obligation. And the house I am going to build must be great, for our God is greater than all other gods. Yet who is really able to build him a house, since the heaven and in the highest heavens cannot contain him? And who am I that I should build him a house, unless it be to offer incense in his presence? Now send me skilled at work in gold, silver, bronze, and iron, in purple, crimson, and violet fabrics, and who know how to do engraved work, to join the skilled craftsmen who are with me in Judah and Jerusalem, whom David my father appointed. Also send me board of the cedars, cypress, and the cabinet wood from the Lebanon, for I realize that your servant know how to cut the wood of the Lebanon. My servant will work with yours, in order to prepare for me a great quantity of the wood, since the house I intend to build must be great and wonderful. I'll furnish add food for your servant, the wood colors, 20,000 gores of the wheat, 20,000 gores of the barley, 20,000 baths of the wine, and 20,000 baths of the oils. Huram, king of the Tyre, wrote the answer which he sent to Solomon. Because the Lord loved his people, he has praised you over them, asking. He added, Blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, who made heaven and earth, for the having given King David the wise son of the intelligence and understanding, who will build the house for the Lord and also his own royal house. I am now sending you a craftsman of great skill, Huram Abis, son of the night woman and of the father from Tyre. He knows how to work with gold, silver, bronze, and iron, with stone and wood, with purples, violet, fine linen, and crimson, and also how to do all kinds of the engraved work and to devise every type of the design that may be given him and your craftsmen and the craftsmen of my Lord David your father. And now let my Lord send his servant to with the barley, oil, and the wine which he has promised. For our part, we will cut trees on the Lebanon, as many as you need, and send them down to you in Elat to the port of the Joppa, whence you may take them up to Jerusalem. Thereupon Solomon took a census of the old alien men resident in the land of the Israel, following the census David his father had taken of them. They were found to number 153,600. Of these he made 70,000 cattle and 80,000 crows in the mountains, and 3,600 overseers to keep the people working. The 2 Chronicles chapter 3 is the building of the temple. Then Solomon began to build the house of the Lord in Jerusalem on Mount Moriah, which had been shown to David his father, in the place that David had prepared the threshing floor of the Ornan the Jebusite. He began to build the second month of the 4th year of his reign. These were the specifications laid down by Solomon for building the house of the God. The length was 60 cubits according to the old measure, and the width was 20 cubits. From the porch along with the width of the house was also 20 cubits, and it was 20 cubits high. He covered its interior with pure gold. The nave he overlaid his cypress wood and overlaid that with fine gold embossing on its arms and chains. He also covered the house with the precious stone of the splendor. The gold was from vines. The house, its beams, and the thresholds, as well as its wall and its doors, he overlaid with gold, and he engraved the cherubim upon the walls. He also made the room of the Holy of the Holies. Its length corresponded to the width of the house, 20 cubits, and its width also with 20 cubits. He overlaid it with fine gold to the amount of 600 talents. The weight of the nails was 50 gold shekels. The upper chambers he likewise overlaid with gold. For the room of the Holy of the Holies, he made 2 cherubim of the carved workmanship, which were then covered with gold. The wings of the cherubim spanned 20 cubits, one wing of its cherubs, 5 cubits in length, extend to the wall of the house, with the other wings also 5 cubits in the length, touches the corresponding wing of the other cherubs. The wing of the cherubs, the 5 cubits, touches the wall of the house, and the other wings, the 5 cubits, was joined to the wing of the other cherubs. The combined wingspread of the 2 cherubim was thus 20 cubits. They stood upon their own feet, facing toward the nave. He made the veil of the violet, the purple, crimson, and the 5 linen, and had the cherubim embroidered upon it. In front of the house he set 2 columns, 35 cubits high. The capital of each was 5 cubits. He divided the chain in the form of the collar with which he encircled the capital of the columns, and he made 100 pomegranates which he set on chains. He set up the columns to correspond with the nave, one for the right side and the other for the left, and he called the one to right Jachin and the one to left Boaz. 2 Chronicles chapter 4. Then he made the bronze altar 20 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 10 cubits high. He also made the molten sea. It was made with the circular rim and measured 10 cubits across, 5 in height and 30 in circumference. Under the brim a ring figure of the oxen encircled it for 10 cubits all the way around the compass of the sea. There were 2 rows of the oxen cast in the mold with the sea. This rested on 12 oxen, 3 facing north, 3 facing west, 3 facing south, and 3 facing east, with their haunches all toward the center. Upon them was set the sea. It was a handbreadth thick, and its brim resembled that of the cup, being arrowly shaped. It had the capacity of the 3,000 baths. Then he made 10 basins for washing, placing 5 of them to the right and 5 to the left. In these, the victims of the burnt offering were washed, but the sea was for the priest to wash in. He made the menorahs of the gold, 10 of them as was prescribed, and placed them in the nave, 5 to the right and 5 to the left. He made the 10 tables and had them set in the nave, 5 to the right and 5 to the left, and he made 100 golden bowls. He made the court of the priest and the great courtyard and the gate of the courtyard. The gate he covered with bronze. The sea he placed off the southeast from the south side of the house. When Huram had made the pot, the shovels, and the bowls, he had finished all his work for the King Solomon in the house of the God. 2 columns, 2 nodes for the capital on the top of the columns, and 2 pieces of the netting covering the 2 nodes for the capital on the top of the columns. 400 pomegranates in double rows on the both pieces of the netting that covered the 2 nodes of the capital on the top of the columns. He made the stand and the basin on the stand, on sea, and the 12 oxen under it. Pot, the shovel, forks, and all the articles Huram Abi made for the King Solomon for the house of the Lord. They were of the burnished bronze. The king had them cast in the neighborhood of the Jordan between Sukkot and Zeradah in the thick clay molds. Solomon made all these vessels so many in number that the weight of the bronze could not be determined. Solomon made all the articles that were for house of the God, the golden altar, the 12 tables on which the showbread lay, the menorahs and the lamps of the pure gold, which were the burnt as prescribed before the inner sanctuaries, flowers, lamps, and gold tongues. This was of the purest gold. Snuffers, bowls, cups, and the fire pan of the pure gold. As for the entrance to the house, its inner door to the holy holies, as well as the doors to the nave of temples, were of gold. 2 Chronicles chapter 5. Dedication of the temples. When all work undertaken by Solomon for the house of the Lord was completed, he brought in the votive offering of the David his father, putting the silver, the gold, and other articles in treasury of the house of gold. Then Solomon assembled the elders of the Israel and all heads of the tribes, the prince in the ancestral houses of the Israelites, to Jerusalem to bring up the ark of the Lord covenant from the city of the David, which is Zion. All the people of the Israel assembled before the king during the festival of the 7th month. When all the elders of the Israel had arrived, the Levites took up the ark. And they brought up the ark and the tent of the meeting with all sacred vessels that were in the tent. The Levitical priests brought them out. King Solomon and the entire community of the Israel gathered for the occasion before the ark, sacrificed sheep and oxen too many to number or count. The priest brought the ark of the covenant of the Lord to its place, the inner sanctuary of the house, the holy of the holies, beneath the wings of the cherubim. The cherubim had their wings spread out over the place of the ark, covering the ark of its poles from above. The poles were so long that their ends could be seen from the holy place in front of their inner sanctuary. They cannot be seen from outside, but they remain there to this day. There was nothing in the ark but the 2 tablets which Moses had put there at Horeb when the Lord made the covenant with the Israelites after they went forth from Egypt. When the priests left the holy place, all the priests who were present had purified themselves regardless of the rotation of their various divisions. The Levites who were singers, all who belonged to the Asaph, Heman, Jeduthun, and their sons and brothers, clothed in fine linen with cymbals, harps, and lilies, stood east of the altar. And with them 120 priests blowing trumpets. When the trumpeters and the singers were heard as a single voice praising and giving thanks to the Lord, and when they raised the sound of the trumpet, cymbals, and other musical instruments to praise the Lord who is so good, whose love endures forever, the cloud filled the house of the Lord. The priest could no longer minister because of the cloud, since the glory of the Lord had filled the house of the God. 2 Chronicles chapter 6. Then Solomon said, "The Lord intends to dwell in the dark cloud. I have built your princely house, the base for your enthronement forever." The king turned and blessed the whole assembly of the Israel, while the whole assembly of the Israel stood. He said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, who with his own mouth spoke a promise to David my father, and by his hand fulfilled it, saying, Since the day I brought my people out of the land of Egypt, I have not chosen a city out of any tribe of the Israel for the building of the house, that my name might be there, nor have I chosen any man to be a ruler of my people Israel. But now I have chosen Jerusalem, that my name may be there, and I have chosen David to rule my people Israel. When David my father wished to build a house for the name of the Lord, the God of Israel, the Lord said to him, in wishing to build a house for my name, you did well. But it is not you who will build the house, but your son who comes from your loins. He shall build the house for my name. Now the Lord has fulfilled the word he spoke. I have succeeded David my father, and I sit on the throne of Israel as the Lord has said. And I have built the house for the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. I praised there the ark in which in the covenant of the Lord that he made with the Israelites. Solomon prayer. Then he stood before the altar of the Lord in presence of the whole assembly of the Israel, and stretched forth his hand. Solomon had made a bronze platform 5 cubits long, 5 cubits wide, and 3 cubits high, which he had placed in the middle of the courtyard. Having ascended it, Solomon knelt in the presence of the whole assembly of the Israel, and stretched forth his hand toward heaven. He said, "The Lord God of Israel, there is no God like you in heaven or on earth. You keep the covenant on the love toward your servant who walked before you with their whole heart. The covenant that you kept toward your servant David my father, that which you promised him, your mouth has spoken and your hand has fulfilled this very day. And now, Lord God of Israel, keep toward your servant David my father what you promised. There shall never be wanting someone from your line to sit before on the throne of Israel, provided that your descendants keep to their way, walking by my law as you have. Now, Lord God of Israel, may words which you spoke to David your servant be confirmed. Is God indeed to dwell with human being on earth? If the heaven and the highest heaven cannot contain you, how much rest this house which I have built? Regard kind the prayer and the petition of your servant, Lord my God, and listen to the cry of the supplication which I, your servant, utter before you. May your eyes be open day and night toward this house, the place where you have decreed your name shall be. Listen to the prayer your servant makes toward this place. Listen to the petition of your servant of your people Israel, which they offer toward this place. Listen from the place of your enthronement to heaven, and listen and forgive. If someone sins against a neighbor and is required to take an oath sanctioned by a cross, and comes and takes the oath before your altar in this house, listen in heaven, act and judge your servant, condemn the wicked, requiting their ways, acquit the just, rewarding their justice. When your people Israel are defeated by an enemy because they have sinned against you, and then they turn, praise your name, pray to you, and entreat you in this house, listen from heaven and forgive the sin of your people Israel, and bring them back to the land you gave them and their ancestors. When the heavens are closed so that there is no rain because they have sinned against you, but they pray toward this place and praise your name, and turn from their sin because you have afflicted them. Listen in heaven and forgive the sin of your servant, your people Israel, for you teach them the good way in which they should walk. Give rain upon the land of yours, which you have given your people as their heritages. If there is a famine in the land and the pestilence of, or if a blight comes, or mildew, or locust swarms, or caterpillars, when the enemies besiege them at any of their gates, whatever plague or sickness there may be, whatever prayer of the petition any may make, any of your people Israel, who know affliction and the pain, and stretch out their hands toward this house, listen from heaven, the place of your enthronement, and forgive, render to each and all according to their ways, you who know every heart. For it is you alone you know the heart of every human being. So may they revere you and walk in your ways as long as they live on the land you gave our ancestors. To the foreigners likewise, who are not of your people Israel, but who come from a distant land for the sake of your great name, your mighty hand and outstretched arm, and come in prayer to this house. Listen from heaven, the place of your enthronement, to all that foreigners ask of you, that all the people of earth may know your name, may revere you as do your people Israel, and may know that your name has been invoked upon this house that I have built. When your people go out to war against their enemies, by whatever way you send them, and they pray to you through the city you have chosen and the house I built for your name, listen from heaven to their prayer and the petition, and uphold their cause. When they sin against you, for there is no one who does not sin, and in your anger against them you deliver them to an enemies, so that their captors carry them out to another land, far or nearest. And they have a change of the heart in the land of their captivities, and they turn and entreat you in the land of their capital and say, "We have sinned and done wrong, we have been wicked." If with all their heart and soul they turn back to you in the land of those who took them captives, and pray toward the land which you gave their ancestors, the city you have chosen, and the house which I have built for your names. Listen from heaven the praise of your enthronement to their prayer and petition, and uphold their cause. Forgive your people who have sinned against you. Now, my God, may your eyes be open and your ears attentive to the prayer of this praise. And now, arise, Lord God, come to your resting place, you and your majestic ark. Your priest, Lord God, will be clothed with salvation. Your faithful ones rejoice in good things. Lord God, do not reject the prayer of your anointed. Remember the devotion of David, your servant. 2 Chronicles chapter 7. When Solomon had ended his prayer, fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offering and the sacrifice, and the glory of the Lord filled the house. But the priest could not enter the house of the Lord, for the glory of the Lord filled the house of the Lord. All the Israelites looked on while the fire came down and the glory of the Lord was upon the house, and they fell down upon the pavement with their face to the earth and worshiped. Praise the Lord, who is so good, whose love endures forever. The king and all the people offered the sacrifice before the Lord. King Solomon offered a sacrifice 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. End of the dedication. Thus the king and all the people dedicated the house of the God. The priests were standing at their station, as were the Levites with the musical instrument of the Lord, which King David had made to give thanks to the Lord, whose love endures forever. When David offered praise through them, the priests opposite them blew the trumpet, and all Israel stood. The Solomon consecrated the middle of the court facing the house of the Lord. He offered there the burnt offering, the fat of the communion offering. Since the bronze altar which Solomon had made could not hold the burnt offering, the grain offering, and the fat. On the occasion, Solomon and with him all Israel, a great assembly from river Hamas to the Wadi of Egypt, celebrated the festival for 7 days. On the 8th day, they held the Solomon assembly, for they had to celebrate the dedication of the altar for 7 days and the feast for 7 days. On the 23rd day of the 7th month, he dismissed the people to their tent, rejoicing and glad of heart because of all the blessing the Lord has given to David, to Solomon, and to his people Israel. Solomon finished building the house of the Lord, the house of the king, and everything else he wanted to do in regard to the house of the Lord and his own house. God promised to Solomon. The Lord appeared to Solomon during the night and said to him, "I have heard your prayer, and I have chosen this place for my house of the sacrifice. If I close the heavens so that there is no rain, if I command the locusts to devour the land, if I send the pestilence among my peoples, if then my people upon whom my name has been pronounced humble themselves and pray, and seek my face and turn from their evil ways, I will hear them from heaven and pardon their sin and heal their land. Now therefore my eyes shall be open and my ears attentive to the prayer of this place. Now I have chosen and consecrated this house, that my name may be there forever. My eyes and my heart shall be there always. As for you, if you walk before me as David your father did, doing all that I have commanded you and keeping my statute and ordinance, I will establish the throne of your kingship as I covenanted with David your father when I said, there shall never be wanting someone from your line as ruler in Israel. But if forever you turn away and forsake my commandment and the statute which I set before you, and proceed to serve other gods and bow down to them, I'll uproot the people from the land I gave and repudiate the house I have consecrated for my names. I'll make it proverb and by rule among all nations. And this house which is so exalted, every passerby shall be horrified and ask, why has the Lord done such thing to the land and to this house? And the answer will come, because they abandoned the Lord, the God of their ancestors, who brought them out of the land of Egypt, and they embraced their other gods, bowing down to them and serving them. That is why he has brought upon them all these evils. 2 Chronicles chapter 8, Public Works. After 20 years, during which Solomon built the house of the Lord and his own house, he built up the cities which Huram had given him and settled the Israelites there. Then Solomon went to the Hamas of the Jobah and conquered it. He built the Tadmor in the wilderness and all the surprise cities which he built in Hamas. He built the upper Beth-horon and the lower Beth-horon, 45 cities with walls, gates, and bars. Also, Baalas, all the surprise cities that belong to the Solomon, and all the city of the chariot, the city of the horses, and whatever else Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem, in Lebanon, and in entire land under his dominions. All the people who were left of the Hittite, the Amorite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, who were not Israelites. Those of their descendants who were left in the land and whom the Israelites had not destroyed, Solomon conscripted as forced laborers as they are to this day. But Solomon made none of the Israelites forced laborers for his works, for they were his fighting force, commanders, adjutants, chariot officials, and cavalries. There were also King Solomon 250 overseers who directed the people. Solomon pietist. Solomon brought the daughter of the Pharaoh from the city of David to the house which he had built for her, for he said, no wife of mine shall dwell in the house of the David king of Israel, for the place where the ark of the Lord has come are holy. In those times Solomon sacrificed a burnt offering to the Lord upon the altar of the Lord which he had built in front of the porch, as was required to be done day by day according to the command of the Moses, especially on the Sabbath. At the new moons and the fixed festival 3 times a year, on the feast of the unleavened bread, the feast of the weeks, and the feast of the booths. And according to the ordinance of the David his father, he appointed the various division of the priests for their service, and the Levite according to the function of the priest and the attendance upon the priest. As the daily duty required, they gatekeepers by the division stood guard at its gate, since such is the command of the David, the man of God. There was the deviation from the king's command in whatever related to the priest and the Levite or the treasuries. All of the Solomon work was carried out successfully from the day the foundation of the house of the Lord was laid until its completion. The house of the Lord was finished. Glories of the court. In those times, Solomon went to the Ezion-Geber and to Elat on the shore of the land of the Edom. Huram had his servant send him sheep and his own servant, expert seaman. They went with Solomon's servant to the Ophir and obtained their 450 talents of the gold and brought it to the king Solomon. 2 Chronicles chapter 9, the Queen of the Sheba. The Queen of the Sheba, having heard the report of the Solomon fame, came to the Jerusalem to test him with subtle questions. Accompanied by a very numerous retinue and by camel bearing spices on the large amount of the gold and the precious stones, she came to Solomon and spoke to him about everything that she had on her mind. Solomon explained to her everything she asked about, and there was nothing so obscure that Solomon could not explain it to her. When the king of the Sheba witnessed Solomon's great wisdom, the house he had built, the food at his table, the sitting of his minister, the attendance and the dress of his waiters, his cupbearers and their dress, and the burnt offering he sacrificed in the house of the Lord, he took her breath away. The report I heard in my country about your deeds and your wisdom is true, she told the king. I did not believe the report until I came and saw with my own eyes that not even the half of your great wisdom had been told me. You have surpassed the report I heard. Happy your servant, happy this minister of yours, so you stand before you always and listen to your wisdom. Blessed be the Lord your God, who was pleased to set you on his throne, asking for the Lord your God. In your love, your God has for Israel to establish them forever. He has made you king over them to carry out judgment and justice. Then she gave the king 120 gold talents of very large quantity of the spices and the precious stone. Never again did anyone bring such an abundance of the spices as the queen of the Sheba gave to King Solomon. The servant of the Huram and of the Solomon who brought the gold from the Ophir also brought the cabinet wood and the precious stone. With the cabinet wood the king made the stairs for the house of the Lord and the house of the king, and the harps and the lyre for the chanters. The like of the house has not been seen before in the land of the Judah. King Solomon gave the king of the Sheba everything she desired and asked for, more than she had brought to the king. Then she returned with the servant to her own countries. The gold that came to Solomon in 1 year weighed 666 gold talents. In addition to what came from the tolls on the travelers and what the merchant brought, all the king of the Arabia also and the governor of the country brought gold and silver to Solomon. King Solomon made 200 large shields of the beaten gold, 600 shekels of the gold went into each shield, and 300 buckler of the beaten gold, 300 shekels of the gold went into each buckler. And the king put them in the house of the forest of the Lebanon. The king made the large ivory throne and overlaid it with fine gold. The throne had 6 steps. The first row of the gold was fastened to the throne, and there was an arm on each side of the seat, with 2 lions standing next to the arm, and 12 other lions standing there on their steps, two step. Nothing like this was made in any other kingdom. All King Solomon's drinking vessels were gold, and all the utensils in the house of the forest of the Lebanon was pure gold. There was no silver, for in Solomon's time silver was reckoned as nothing. For the king had a ship that went to the Tarshish with the servant of the Huram. Once every 3 years the fleet of the Tarshish ship would come with a cargo of the gold, silver, ivory, apes, and monkeys. Solomon renowned. Thus King Solomon surpassed all the king of the earth in riches and wisdom. All the king of the earth sought the audience with Solomon to hear the wisdom of the God had put into his heart. They all brought their tribute, the vessel of the silver and gold, the garment, the weapons, the spices, horses, and mules, what was due each year. Solomon had 4,000 store for horses, chariot, and 12,000 horses. These he allocated among the chariot city and to the king's service in Jerusalem. He was a ruler over the whole king from the river to the land of the Philistines and down to the border of the Egypt. The king made silver as common in Jerusalem as stone and cedar as numerous as the sycamores of the Shephelah. Solomon's horses were imported from Egypt and from all the land. The death of the Solomon. The remainder of the Act of Solomon, first and last, are recorded in the Act of Nathan the prophet, in the prophecy of the Ahijah the Shilonite, and in the vision of the Iddo the seer concerning the Jeroboam son of the Nebat. Solomon was king in Jerusalem over all Israel for 40 years. Solomon rested with his ancestors and was buried in the city of David, his father, and Rehoboam, his son, succeeded him as king. 2 Chronicles chapter 10, Division of the Kingdom. Rehoboam went to Shechem, where all Israel had come to make him king. When Jeroboam, son of the Nebat, heard about it, he was in Egypt where he had fled from King Solomon, and he returned from Egypt. They sent for him. Jeroboam and all Israel came and said to Rehoboam, "Your father put on us a heavy yoke. If you now lighten the house's servitude and the heavy yoke your father imposed on us, we will be your servant." He answered them, "Come back to me in 3 days," and the people went away. King Rehoboam asked advice of the elders who had been in his father Solomon's service while he was still alive, and asked, "How do you advise me to answer these people?" They replied, "If you will deal kindly with these people and praise them, giving them a favorable reply, they will be your servant forever." But he ignored the advice the elder had given him and asked the advice of the young men who had grown up with him and were in his service. He said to them, "What answer do you advise us to give these people who have told me, 'Lighten the yoke your father imposed on us'?" The young men who had grown up with him replied, "This is what you must say to these people who have told you, 'Your father laid a heavy yoke on us, lighten it for us.' You must say, 'My little finger is thicker than my father's loins. My father put heavy yoke on you, I will make it heavier. My father beat you with the whips, I will use scorpions.'" On the 3rd day, Jeroboam and the whole people come back to King Rehoboam as the king had instructed them, "Come back to me in 3 days." Ignoring the advice the elder had given him, King Rehoboam gave the people a harsh answer. He spoke to them as young men had advised, "My father laid a heavy yoke on you, I'll make it heavier. My father beat you with whips, I'll use a scorpion." The king did not listen to the people, for this turn of the event was from God. The Lord fulfilled the word he had spoken through Isaiah the Shilonite to Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. When all Israel saw that the king did not listen to them, the people answered the kings, "What shall help you in David? We have no heritage in the son of the Jesse. Everyone to your tent, Israel. Now look to your own house, David." So all Israel went up to their tent. But the Israelites who lived in the city of Judah had Rehoboam as their kings. King Rehoboam then sent out the Hadoram, who was in charge of the forced labor, but the Israelites stoned him to death. King Rehoboam, however, managed to mount his chariot and fled to Jerusalem. And so Israel has been in a rebellion against the house of David to this day. 2 Chronicles chapter 11. On his arrival in Jerusalem, Rehoboam assembled the house of Judah and Benjamin on 180,000 allied warriors to wage war against Israel and restore the kingdom to Rehoboam. However, the word of the Lord came to Shemaiah, a man of God. "Say to Rehoboam, son of Solomon, king of Judah, and to all Israelites in Judah and Benjamin, thus says the Lord, you must not go out to war against your kinsmen. Return home, each of you. For it is I who have brought this about." They obeyed the word of the Lord and turned back from going against Jeroboam. Rehoboam's works. Rehoboam took up the residence in Jerusalem and built the fortified cities in Judah. He built up the Bethlehem, Etam, Tekoas, Bethjur, Soko, Adoram, Gaz, Marashah, Ziph, Adoraim, Lachish, Azekaz, Jorah, Aizaron, and Hebron. These were fortified cities in Judah and Benjamin. Then he strengthened the fortification and put commanders in them, along with the supply of the food, oil, and the wines. In every city were shields and spears, and he made them very strong. Thus Judah and Benjamin remained his refugees from the north. Now the priests and the Levites throughout Israel presented themselves to him from all parts of the land. For the Levites left their assigned pasture land and their holding and came to Judah and Jerusalem, because Jeroboam and his son rejected them as priests of the Lord. In the place he himself appointed the priests for the high places, as well as for sacrifices and the calves he had made. After them, all those of every tribe of the Israel who set their heart to seek the Lord, the God of Israel, came to Jerusalem to sacrifice to the Lord, the God of their ancestors. Thus they strengthened the kingdom of the Judah and made Rehoboam, son of the Solomon, prevail for 3 years, for they walked in the way of the David and Solomon 3 years. Rehoboam and families. Rehoboam married Mahalal's daughter of the Zeromoth, son of the David, and Abihail's daughter of the Eliab, son of the Jesse. She bore him sons Jehus, Shemaliah, and Zaham. After her, he married Maacah, daughter of the Absalom, who bore him Abijah, Attai, Zizah, and Shalomish. Rehoboam loved Maacah, daughter of the Absalom, more than all his other wives and concubines. He had taken 18 wives and 60 concubines, and he fathered 28 sons and 60 daughters. Rehoboam put Abijah, son of the Maacah, first among his brothers as a leader, for his intent to make him king. He acted prudently, distributing his various sons throughout all the districts of the Judah and the Benjamin, in all fortified cities, and he gave them generous provision and sought abundance of the wives for them. 2 Chronicles chapter 12, Rehoboam apostacy. Once Rehoboam had established himself as king and was affirmed in charge, he abandoned the law of the Lord, and so did all Israel with him. So in the 5th year of the king Rehoboam, Shishak, king of Egypt, attacked Jerusalem, for they had acted treacherously toward the Lord. He had 1,200 chariots and 60,000 horsemen, and there was no counting the army that came with him from Egypt, Libyan, Sukkite, and Ethiopians. They captured the fortified city of the Judah and came as far as Jerusalem. Then Shemaiah the prophet came to Rehoboam and the commander of the Judah, who had gathered at Jerusalem because of the Shishak, and said to them, "Thus says the Lord, you have abandoned me, and so I abandoned you to the power of the Shishak." Then the commander of Israel and the king humbled themselves, saying, "The Lord is in the right." When the Lord saw they had humbled themselves, the word of the Lord came to Shemaiah. "Because they had humbled themselves, I will not destroy them, I will give them some deliverance, and my wrath shall not be poured out upon Jerusalem through Shishak. But they shall be his servant, then they will know that what is to serve me, or what is to serve the kingdom of the earth." Thereupon Shishak, king of Egypt, attacked Jerusalem and took away the treasure of the house of the Lord and the treasure of the house of the king. He took everything, including the gold shield that Solomon had made. To replace them, King Rehoboam made bronze shears, which he entrusted to the official of the attendant on duty at the entrance of the king's house. Whenever the king visited the house of the Lord, the attendant would carry them and then return them to the guard room. Because he had humbled himself, the anger of the Lord turned from him so as not to destroy him completely. In Judah, moreover, there was some guilt. King Rehoboam was firmly in power in Jerusalem and continued to the rule. Rehoboam was 41 years old when he became king, and he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city in which out of all tribes of the Israel, the Lord chose to set his name. His mother's name was Naamah the Ammonite. He did evil, for he had not set his heart to seek the Lord. The act of the Rehoboam first and arrest are recorded in the history of the Shemaiah the prophet, of the Edo the seer, his family records. There was wars between Rehoboam and Jeroboam all their days. Rehoboam rested with his ancestors. He was buried in the city of David. His son Abijah succeeded him as king. 2 Chronicles chapter 13, war between Abijah and Jeroboam. In the 18th year of the king Jeroboam, Abijah became king of Judah. He reigned 3 years in Jerusalem. His mother was named Micaiah, daughter of the Uriel of the Gibeah. There was war between Abijah and Jeroboam. Abijah joined the battle with a force of 400,000 picked warriors, while Jeroboam lined up against him in battle with 800,000 picked and valiant warriors. Abijah stood on the mountain Zemaraim, which is in the highland of the Ephraim, and said, "Listen to me, Jeroboam and all Israel. Do you not know that the Lord, the God of Israel, has given David the kingship over Israel forever, to him and to his sons by a covenant of the salt? Yet Jeroboam, son of the Nebat, the servant of the Solomon, son of David, aroused on the rebel against his Lord. Worthless man scoundrel joined him and overcame Rehoboam, son of the Solomon, when Rehoboam was young and experienced and no match for them. But now do you think you are matched for the kingdom of the Lord, led by the descendant of the David, simply because you are a huge multitude and have with you the golden calves, which Jeroboam made you forget? Have you not expelled the priest of the Lord, the son of the Aaron, and the Levite, and made for yourself priests like the people of the other lands? Everyone who comes to consecrate himself with a young bull and 7 lambs becomes a priest of the no gods. But as for us, the Lord is our God, and we have not abandoned him. The priests ministering to the Lord are sons of the Aarons, and the Levites also have their office. They sacrifice burnt offering to the Lord and the fragrant incense morning after morning and evening after evening. They set out the showbread on the four tables, and the lamps of the golden menorah burn evening after evening. For we observe our duty to the Lord our God, but you have abandoned him. See, God is with us at our head, and his priests are here with the trumpet to sound the attack against you. Israelites, do not fight against the Lord, the God of your ancestors, for you will not succeed. But Jeroboam had an ambush go around them to come at them from the rear, so that while his army faced Judah, his ambush lay behind them. When Judah turned and saw that they had to battle on both fronts, they cried out to the Lord, and the priests sounded the trumpet. Then the Judahites shouted, and when they shouted, God struck down Jeroboam and all Israel before Abijah and Judah. The Israelites fled before Judah, and God delivered them into their power. Abijah and his people inflict a severe defeat upon them. 500,000 picked men of Israel fell slain. The Israelites were humbled on that occasion, while the Judahites were victorious because they relied on the Lord, the God of their ancestors. Abijah pursued Jeroboam and seized the city from him, Bethel and its dependencies, Jeshanaras and his dependents, and Ephron and its dependencies. Jeroboam did not regain power during Abijah's time. The Lord struck him down and he died. While Abijah continued to grow stronger, he married 14 wives and fathers 22 sons and 16 daughters. Death of the Abijah. The rest of the act of the Abijah, his deed and his words are recorded in the midrash of the prophet Iddo. Abijah rested with his ancestors. They buried him in the city of David, and his son Asa succeeded him as king. During his time, the land had 10 years of the peace. 2 Chronicles chapter 14, Asa initial reforms. Asa did what was good and right in the sight of the Lord his God. He removed it, erased the altar and the high places, smashed the sacred pillars, and cut down the Asherahs. He told Judah to seek the Lord, the God of their ancestors, and to observe the law and the commandment. He removed the high place and the incense stand from all the city of the Judah, and under him the kingdom had peace. He built a fortified city in the Judah, for the land had peace, or no war was waged against him during these years, because the Lord had given him a rest. He said to Judah, "Let us build these cities and surround them with walls, towers, gates, and bars. The land is still ours, for we have sought the Lord our God. We sought him, and he has given us rest on every side." So they built and prospered. The Ethiopian invasion. Asa had an army of 300,000 shield and lance bearers from Judah, and from Benjamin 280,000 who carried the bucklers and the war archers, all of them valiant warriors. Zerah the Ethiopian advanced against them with a force of 1 million men and 300 chariots, and he came as far as Mareshah. Asa went out to meet him, and they drew up for battle in the valley of the Jephatah near Mareshah. Asa called upon the Lord his God, "Lord, there is none like you to help the powerless against the strong. Help us, the Lord our God, for we rely on you, and in your name we have come against this multitude. You are the Lord our God, do not let men prevail against you." And so the Lord defeated the Ethiopian before Asa and Judah, and the Ethiopian fled. Asa and those with him pursued them as far as Gerar, and Ethiopian fell until there were no survivors, for they were crushed before the Lord and his army, which carried away enormous spoils. Then the Judahites conquered all the cities around Gerar, for the fear of the Lord was upon them. They plundered all the cities, for there was much plunder in them. They also attacked the tent of the cattle holder and carried off the great number of the sheep and the camels. Then they returned to the Jerusalem. 2 Chronicles chapter 15, further reforms. The Spirit of God came upon the Azariah, son of the Obed. He went first to meet Asa and said to him, "Hear me, Asa and all Judah and Benjamin. The Lord is with you when you are with him, and if you seek him, he will be found. But if you abandon him, he will abandon you." For a long time, Israel was without the true God, without the priest teacher, without the instruction. But when in their distress they turned to the Lord, the God of Israel, and sought him, he was found by them. At that time there was no peace for anyone to go or come, rather there was many terrors upon the inhabitants of the land. Nation crushed the nation and the city crushed the city, for God overwhelmed them with every kind of the distress. But as for you, be strong and do not slack off, for there shall be a reward for what you do. When Asa heard these words and the prophecy of Oded the prophet, he was encouraged to remove the detestable idols from the whole land of the Judah and Benjamin, and from the city he had taken in the highland of the Ephraim, and to restore the altar of the Lord, which was before the festival of the Lord. Then he gathered all Judah and Benjamin, together with those of the Ephraim, Manasseh, and Simeon, who were resident with them. For many had defected to him from Israel when they saw that Lord his God was with him. They gathered at Jerusalem in the third month of the 15th year of the Asa reign, and sacrificed to the Lord on that day 700 oxen and 7,000 sheep from the spoils they had brought. They entered into the covenant to seek the Lord, the God of their ancestors, with all their heart and soul. And everyone who would not seek the Lord, the God of Israel, was to put to death, from least to greatest, man or woman. They swore on oath to the Lord with a loud voice, with a shouting, and with a trumpet and horns. All Judah rejoiced over the oath, for they had sworn it with their whole heart and sought him with a complete desire. The Lord was found by them and gave them rest on every side. He also deposed Maacah, the mother of the king Asa, from his position as king mother, because she had made an obscene object for Asherah. Asa cut down this object, smashed it, and burned in the Wadi Kidron. The high place did not disappear from Israel, yet Asa's heart was undivided as long as he lived. He brought into the house of the God his father and his own votive offering, the silver, gold, and the vessels. There was no war until the 35th year of the Asa reign. 2 Chronicles chapter 16, Asa's infidelities. In the 36th year of the Asa reign, the Baasha, king of Israel, attacked Judah and fortified Ramah to block all the movement for Asa, king of Judah. Asa then brought out silver and gold from the treasury of the house of the Lord and the house of the king, and sent them to the Ben-Hadad, king of the Aram, who ruled in Damascus. He said, "There is a treaty between you and me, as there was between your father and my father. I am sending you silver and gold. Go break your treaty with Baasha, king of Israel, that he may withdraw from me." Ben-Hadad agreed with King Asa and sent the rid of his troops against the city of Israel. They attacked the Idron, Dan, Abel, Maim, beside all the straw city of the Naphtalites. When the Baasha heard of it, he left up the fortifying Ramah, putting an end to his work. Then the king Asa commanded all Judah, and they carried away the stone and the beams with which Baasha was fortifying Ramah. With them he fortified the Geba and the Mizpah. At that time, Hanani the seer came to Asa, king of Judah, and said to him, "Because you relied on the king of the Aram and did not rely on the Lord your God, the army of the king of the Aram has escaped your power. Will not the Ethiopian and the Libyan a vast army with great number of the chariot and the horses? And yet, because you rely on the Lord, he delivered them into your power." The eyes of the Lord roam over the whole earth to encourage those who are devoted to him wholeheartedly. You have acted foolishly in this matter, for from now on you will have wars. But Asa became angry with his seer and imprisoned him in the stocks. So greatly was he enraged at him over this. Asa also oppressed some of his people at this time. Now the act of the Asa, first and the last, are recorded in the book of the kings of the Judah and Israel. In the 39th year of his reign, Asa contracted a disease in his feet. It became worse, but even with the disease, we did not seek the Lord, only a physician. Asa rested with his ancestor. He died in the 41st year of his reign. They buried him in the tomb he had hewn for himself in the city of David. After laying him on the couch that was filled with the spices and the various kinds of the aromatics, compounded into an ointment, and they kindled a huge fire for them. 2 Chronicles chapter 17. Jehoshaphat zeal for the Lord. His son Jehoshaphat succeeded him as king and strengthened his position against Israel. He placed armed forces in all the fortified city of Judah and set the garrison in the land of Judah and in the city of Ephraim, which Asa his father had taken. The Lord was with Jehoshaphat, for he walked in the early way of David his father and did not seek the Baals. Rather, he sought the God of his father and walked in his command and not the practice of Israel. Through him the Lord made the kingdom secure, and all Judah gave Jehoshaphat the gift, so that great wealth and glory was his. Thus he was encouraged to follow the Lord's ways, and once again he removed the high place and the Asherahs from Judah. In the 3rd year of his reign, he sent his officials, the Ben-Harold, Obadiah, Zechariah, Nathaniel, and Micaiah, to teach in the city of Judah. With them he sent the Levite Shemaiah, Nethaniah, Zebadiah, Asher, Shemaramoth, Jonathan, Adonijah, and Tobijah, together with Elishama and Zeroram the priest. They taught in Judah, having with them the book of the law of the Lord. They traveled through the old city of Judah and taught among the peoples his power. Now the fear of the Lord was upon all the kingdoms of the countries surrounding Judah, so that they did not war against Jehoshaphat. Some of the Philistines brought Jehoshaphat the gift and the tribute of the silver. The Arabians also brought him the flock of the 7,700 rams and the 7,700 he-goats. Jehoshaphat grew ever greater. He built the stronghold and the strong city in Judah. He carried out many works in the city of Judah, and he had soldiers, valiant warriors in Jerusalem. This was their mustering according to their ancestral houses. From Judah the command of the thousands, Adonai the command, and with him 300,000 valiant warriors. Next to him Hanan the commanders, and with him 280,000. Next to him Amashia, son of the Zikris, who offered himself to the Lord, and with him 200,000 valiant warriors. From Benjamin, Eliada of valiant warriors, and with him 200,000 armed with bow and bucklers. Next to him Jehoshaphat, and with him 180,000 equipped for war. These attended the king in addition to those whom the king had stationed in the fortified cities throughout all Judah. 2 Chronicles chapter 18, alliance with Israel. Jehoshaphat therefore had wealth and glory in abundance, but he became related to Ahab by marriage. After some years, he went down to Ahab at Samaria. Ahab slaughtered numerous sheep and oxen for him and for the people with him, and incited him to go up against Ramoth-Gilead. Ahab, king of Israel, asked Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, "Will you come with me to Ramoth-Gilead?" He answered, You and I are as one, and your people are my people as well. We will be with you in the battle. Jehoshaphat also said to the king of Israel, Seek the word of the Lord at once. Prophet in conflict. The king of the Israel assembled the prophet, 400 of them, and asked, Shall I go to fight against Ramoth Gilead, or shall I refrain? They said, Attack, God will give it into the power of the king. But Jehoshaphat said, Is there no other prophet of the Lord here we might consult? The king of Israel answered, There is one other man through whom we may consult the Lord. But I hate him because he prophesies not good but always evil about me. He is Micaiah, son of the Imra. Jehoshaphat said, Let not the king say that. So the king Israel called an official and said to him, Get Micaiah, son of the Imra, at once. The king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, were seated each on his throne, clothed in their robe of the state in the square at the entrance of the gate of the Samaria, and all the prophets were prophesying before them. Zedekiah, son of the Chenaanah, made himself two horns of the iron and said, The Lord says, With this you shall go Aram until you have destroyed them. The other prophet prophesied in the same vein, saying, Attack Ramoth Gilead and conquer. The Lord will give it into the power of the king. Meanwhile, the messenger who had gone to call Micaiah said to him, Look now, the words of the prophet are as one in speaking good for the king. Let your word be at one with theirs, speak a good word. Micaiah said, As the Lord lives, I shall speak whatever my God says. When he came to the king said to him, Micaiah, shall I go fight Ramoth Gilead, or shall I refrain? He said, Attack and conquer, they will be delivered into your power. But the king answered him, How many times must I adjure you to tell me nothing but the truth in the name of the Lord? So Micaiah said, I see all Israel scattered on the mountains, like a sheep without the shepherds, and the Lord saying, These have no masters, let each of them go back home in peace. The king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, Did I not tell you, he does not prophesy good about me, but only evils? Micaiah continued, Therefore hear the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord seated on his throne, with the whole host of the heavens standing to his right and to his left. The Lord asked, Who will deceive Ahab, king of Israel, so that he will go up and fall on Ramoth Gilead? And one said this, another that. Until this spirit came forth and stood up before the Lord, saying, I will deceive him. The Lord asked, How? He answered, I will go forth and become a lying spirit in the mouths of the Ori's prophet. The Lord replied, You shall succeed in deceiving him. Go forth and do this. So now the Lord has put a lying spirit in the mouths of these prophets of yours, but the Lord himself has decreed evil against you. Thereupon Zedekiah, son of the Chenaanah, came up and struck Micaiah on the cheeks, saying, Has the Spirit of the Lord then passed from me to speak with you? Micaiah said, You shall find out on the day of you go into an innermost room to hide. The king of Israel then said, Seize Micaiah and take him back to Ammon, prefect of the city, and to Joash the king's son, and say, This is king order, put this man in prison and feed them scant their ration of the bread and the water until I come back in safety. But Micaiah said, If ever you return in safety, the Lord has not spoken to me. He also said, Hear, O peoples, all of you. Ahab died. The king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, went up to the Ramoth Gilead, and the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, I'll disguise myself and go into battle, but you put on your own robes. So the king of Israel disguised himself, and they entered the battles. In the meantime, the king of Aram had given his chariot the command, the order, fight with no one great or small, except the king of the Israel alone. When the chariot the command saw Jehoshaphat, they saw that there is the king of the Israel, and willed to fight him. But Jehoshaphat cried out, and the Lord helped him, yet induced them to leave him alone. The chariot commander, seeing that he was not king of Israel, turned away from him. But someone drew his bow at random and hit the king of Israel between the joint of his breastplate. He ordered his charioteers, rein over and take me out of the ranks, for I am wounded. The battle grew fierce during the day, and the king of Israel braced himself up in his chariot facing the Arameans. Until evening, he died as the sun was setting. 2 Chronicles chapter 19. Jehoshaphat rebuked. Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, returned in safety to his house in Jerusalem. Jehu the seer, son of the Hanani, went out to meet King Jehoshaphat and said to him, "Should you help the wicked and love those who hate the Lord? For this reason a wrath is upon you from the Lord. Yet some good has been found in you, since you have removed the Asherahs from the land and have set your heart to seek God." Judges appointed. Jehoshaphat dwelt in Jerusalem, but he went out again among the people from Beersheba to the highland of the Ephraim, and brought them back to the Lord, the God of their ancestors. He appointed judges in the land in all the fortified cities of the Judah, city by city. And he said to them, "Take care what you do, for judgment you give is not human but divine. For when it comes to judgment, God will be with you. And now let the fear of the Lord be upon you. Act carefully, for with the Lord our God there is no injustice, no partiality, no bribe-taking." In Jerusalem also, Jehoshaphat appointed some Levites and the priests and some of the family head of the Israel for the Lord's judgment and the dispute of those who dwell in Jerusalem. He gave them this command: "Thus you shall act in the fear of the Lord with fidelity and with an undivided heart. And in every dispute that comes to you from your kin are living in the cities, whether it concern broad guilt or question of law, command, statute, or ordinance, warn them lest they incur guilt before the Lord and his arrest come upon you and your kin. Do that, and you shall not incur guilt. See now, Amariah is chief priest over you for everything that pertains to the Lord. And Zebadiah, son of the Ishmael, is the leader of the house of the Judah in all that pertains to the kings. And the Levite will be your official. Take firm action, and the Lord will be with the good." 2 Chronicles chapter 20. The invasion from Edom. After this, the Moabite, the Ammonite, and with them some Night came to fight against Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat was told, "A great multitude is coming against you from across the sea, from Edom. They are already in Hazazon Tamar, which is En-Gedi." Frightened, Jehoshaphat resolved to consult the Lord. He proclaimed a fast throughout all Judah. Then Judah gathered to seek the Lord help. From every one of the city of the Judah they came to seek the Lord. Jehoshaphat prayer. Jehoshaphat stood up in assembly of the Judah and Jerusalem in the house of the Lord before new court. And he said, "The Lord God of our ancestors, are you not God in heaven? And do you not rule over all kingdoms of the nations? In your hand is power and might, and no one can withstand you. Was it not you, our God, who dispossessed the inhabitants of this land before your people Israel, and gave it forever to the descendant of the Abraham, your friend? They have dwelt in it, and they built in it a sanctuary for your name. They have said, if evil comes upon us, the sword of the judgment, or pestilence, or famine, we will stand before the house and before you. For your name is in this house, and we will cry out to you in our affliction, and you will hear and save. And now see the Ammonite, the Moabite, and those of the Mount Seir, whom you did not allow Israel to invade when they came from the land of Egypt. But instead they passed them by and did not destroy them. See how they are not repaying us by coming to drive us out of the possession you have given us. O our God, will you not bring judgment on them? We are powerless before the vast multitude that is coming against us. We ourselves do not know what to do, so our eyes are turned toward you. Victory prophesied. All Judah was standing before the Lord with their little ones, their wives, and their children. And the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jaziel, son of the Zechariah, son of the Benaiah, son of the Zair, son of the Mattaniah, a Levite of the clan of the Asaph, in the midst of the assembly. And he said, pay attention, all of Judah, inhabitants of the Jerusalem, and King Jehoshaphat. The Lord says to you, do not fear and be dismayed at the sight of the vast multitude, for the battle is not yours but God's. Go down against them tomorrow. You will see them coming out by the ascent of the Ziz, and you will come upon them at the end of the Wadi, which opens on the wilderness of the Zeruel. You will not have to fight in this encounter. Take your places, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord. He will be with you, Judah and Jerusalem. Do not fear or be dismayed. Tomorrow go out to meet them, and the Lord will be with you. Then Jehoshaphat knelt down his face to the ground, and all Judah and the inhabitants of the Jerusalem fell down before the Lord in worship. Levite from among the Kohathite and the Korahite stood up to sing the praise of the Lord, the God of Israel, their voices ever louder. The invaders destroyed. Early in the morning, they went out to the wilderness of the Tekoa. As they were going out, Jehoshaphat halted and said, listen to me, Judah and inhabitants of the Jerusalem. Let your faith in the Lord your God be firm, and you will be firm. Have faith in his prophet, and you will succeed. After taking counsel with the people, he appointed some to sing to the Lord and some to praise the holy splendor as it went forth at the head of the army. They sang, give thanks to the Lord whose love endures forever. At the moment they began the jubilant praise, the Lord arrayed an ambush against the Ammonite, the Moabite, and those of the Mount Seir who were coming against Judah, so that they were defeated. For the Ammonite and the Moabite set upon the inhabitants of the Mount Seir and exterminated them according to the band. And when they had finished with the inhabitants of the Seir, each helped to destroy the others. When Judah came to the watchtower of the wilderness and looked toward the thorns, there were only corpses fallen on the ground with no survivors. Jehoshaphat and his people came together to spoil, and they found the abundance of the cattle and the personal properties, garments and the precious vessels. They took to so much that they were unable to carry it all. It took them 3 days to gather these spoils. There was so much of it. On the first day, they held an assembly in the valley of the Barakars. For there they blessed the Lord. That is why the place is called the valley of the Barakar to this day. Then all the men of the Judah and Jerusalem with the Jehoshaphat at their head returned to the Jerusalem with joy, for the Lord had given them joy over their enemies. They came to Jerusalem with the harps, lyres, and the trumpets to the house of the Lord. And the fear of the God came upon all the kingdom of the surrounding land when they heard how the Lord had fought against the enemy of the Israel. Thereafter Jehoshaphat the kingdom had peace, for his God gave him rest on every side. Jehoshaphat added these. Thus Jehoshaphat reigned over Judah. He was 35 years old when he became king, and he reigned 25 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Azubah, daughter of the Shereles. He walked in the way of Asa, his father, unceasingly, doing what was right in the Lord's sight. Nevertheless, the high place did not disappear, and the people had not yet set their hearts on the God of their ancestors. The rest of the act of the Jehoshaphat, the first and last, are recorded in the Chronicles of the Jehu, son of the Hananiah, which was incorporated into the book of the kings of the Israel. After this, Jehoshaphat, the king of the Judah, joined with Ahaziah, king of the Israel. He acted wickedly. He joined with him in building ships to go to Tarshish. The fleet was built at Ezion in Gilboa. But Arizah, son of the Dodavaru from Mareshah, prophesied against Jehoshaphat. He said, because you have joined with Ahaziah, the Lord will shatter your rock, and the ship were lacked and were unable to sail to Tarshish. 2 Chronicles chapter 21. Jehoshaphat rested with his ancestors. He was buried with them in the city of David. Jeroham, his son, succeeded him as king. He had brothers, Jehoshaphat's sons, Azariah, Jair, Zechariah, Azariah, Michael, and Shephatiah. All these were sons of King Jehoshaphat of the Judah. Their father gave them many gifts of the silver, gold, and the precious objects, together with the fortified city in the Judah. But the kingship he gave to the Jeroham, because he was the firstborn. Jeroham evil deeds. When Jeroham had acceded to his father's kingdom and was firmly in power, he killed all his brothers with the sword and also some of the princes of Israel. Jeroham was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. He walked in the way of the king of the Israel, as the house of the Ahab had done, since the daughter of the Ahab was his wife. And he did what was evil in the Lord's sight. Even so, the Lord was unwilling to destroy the house of David because of the covenant he had made with David, and because of his promise to leave him and his son a holding for all the time. During his time, Edom revolted against the rule of the Judah and installed its own kings. Thereupon Jeroham with his officials and all his chariot crossed over. He arose by night and broke through the Edomites when they had surrounded him and the commanders of his chariots. To this day, Edom has been in revolt against the rule of the Judah. Libnah also revolted at that time against his rule because he had abandoned the Lord, God of his ancestors. He also set up high places in the mountain of the Judah, prostituting the inhabitants of the Jerusalem, leading Judah astray. Jeroham punished. A letter came to him from Ariha, the prophet, with the message, thus says the Lord, the God of David your father, because you have not walked in the way of your father Jehoshaphat, nor of Asa king of Judah. but instead have walked in the way of the king of the Israel, leading Judah and the inhabitants of the Jerusalem into prostitution, like the harlotries of the house of Ahab, and because you have killed your brother of your father's house, who were better than you. The Lord will strike your people, your children, your wives, and all that is yours with the great plague. You shall have severe pains from a disease in your bowels, which will fall out because of the disease day after day. Then the Lord strode up against Joram, the animosity of the Philistines and of the Arameans, who were neighbors of the Ethiopians. They came against Judah, breached it, and carried away all the wealth found in the king of the house. Along with his son and his wives, he was left with only one son, Jehoahaz, his youngest. After this event, the Lord afflicted him with the disease of the bowels, for which there was no cure. Sometime later, after a period of 2 years had elapsed, his bowels fell out because of the disease, and he died in the great pain. His people did not make a fire for him as they had not had for his ancestors. He was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. He departed unloved, and they buried him in the city of David, though not in the tomb of the kings. 2 Chronicles chapter 22, Ahaziah. Then the inhabitants of Jerusalem made Ahaziah, his youngest son, king to succeed him. Since all the older sons had been killed by the band, they had come into the camp with the Arameans. Thus Ahaziah, son of Zerubbabel, reigned as the king of Judah. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Athaliah, daughter of the Omni. He too walked in the way of the house of the Ahab, because his mother was his counselor in doing evils. To his own destruction, he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, like the house of the Ahab, since they were his counselors after the death of the fathers. He was also following their counsel when he joined Jeroham, son of the Ahab, king of the Israel, in battle against Hazael, king of the Aram, at the Ramoth Gilead, where the Arameans wounded Jeroham. He returned to Jezreel to be healed of the wounds that had been inflicted on him at the Ramah in his battle against Hazael, king of the Aram. Then Azariah, son of Jeroham, king of Judah, went down to Jezreel to visit Jeroham, son of the Ahab, for he was sick. Now from God came Azariah downfall, that he should join Jeroham, for after his arrival he rode out with Jeroham to Jehu, son of Nimshi, whom the Lord had anointed to cut down the house of the Ahab. While Jehu was executing judgment on the house of the Ahab, he also came upon the princes of Judah and the nephews of the Ahaziah, who were his attendants, and he killed them. Then he looked for Ahaziah himself. They caught him hiding in the Samaria and brought him to the Jehu, who put him to death. They buried him, for they said he was the grandson of the Jehoshaphat, who sought the Lord with his whole heart. Now the house of the Ahaziah did not retain the power of the kingship. Usurpation of the Athaliah. When Athaliah, the mother of the Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she began to kill out the whole royal family of the house of Judah. But Sheba, a daughter of the king, took Joash, Ahaziah's son, and spread him away from among the king's sons who were about to be slain, and put him and his nurse in bedrooms. In this way, Jehosheba, the daughter of the king Jehoram, a sister of the Ahaziah and the wife of the Jehoiada, the priest, concealed the child from Athaliah so that she did not put him to death. For 6 years he remained hidden with them in the house of the God, while Athaliah ruled as queen over the land. 2 Chronicles chapter 23, Athaliah overthrows. In the 7th year, Jehoiada took courage and brought into covenant with himself the captains, Azariah son of the Jeroham, Ishmael son of the Jehohanan, Azariah son of the Obed, Maaseiah son of the Adaiah, and Elishaphat son of the Jeroham. They journeyed about Judah, gathering the Levites from all the cities of the Judah, and also head of the Israelite their families, and they came to Jerusalem. The whole assembly made the covenant with the king in the house of the God. Jehoiada said to them, "Here is the king's son who must reign, as the Lord promised concerning the sons of the David. This is what we must do. A third of your numbers, both priest and Levite, who comes on duty on Sabbath, must guard the thresholds. Another third must be at the king's house, at the final third at the foundation gate, when all the people will be in the court of the Lord's house. Let no one enter the Lord's house except the priest and those Levites who are ministering. They may enter because they are holy. But all the other people must observe the prescription of the Lord. The Levites shall surround the king on all sides, each with drawn weapons. Whoever tries to enter the house is to be killed. Stay with the king wherever he goes." The Levite and all Judah did just as Jehoiada the priest commanded. Each took his troops, both those going on duty for the week and those going off duty that week. Since Jehoiada the priest had not dismissed any of the divisions, Jehoiada the priest gave to the captain the spears, the shield, and the buckler of the king David, which were in the house of the God. He stationed all the people, each with a spear in hand, from the southern to the northern rim of the enclosure, surrounding the altar and the temple of the king's behalf. Then they brought out the king's son and put the crown and the testimony upon him and proclaimed him king. Jehoiada and his son anointed him, and they cried, "Long live the king." When Athaliah heard the noise of the people running and acclaiming the king, she came before them in the house of the Lord. When she saw the king standing by his column at the entrance, the captain and the trumpeters near the king, and all the people of the land rejoicing and blowing trumpets, while the singers with their musical instruments were reading the acclaim, Athaliah tore her garment, saying, "Treason, treasons." Then Jehoiada the priest brought out the captain in the command of the force, escorted her with the guard details. "If anyone follows her, let him die by the sword, for the priest has said, 'You must not put her to death in the house of the Lord.'" So they seized her, and when she reached the horse gate of the royal palace, they put her to death. Then Jehoiada made a covenant between himself and all the people and the kings, that they should be the Lord's peoples. Thereupon all the people went to the temple of the Baal and demolished it. They shattered its altars and the images completely, and killed Mattah, the priest of the Baal, before the altars. Then Jehoiada gave the charge of the Lord's house into the hand of the Levitical priest, to whom David had assigned turns in the Lord's house for sacrificing the burnt offering of the Lord, as is written in the law of the Moses, with rejoicing and song, as David had provided. Moreover, he stationed the guard at the gate of the Lord's house, so that no one unclean in any respect might enter. Then he took the captains, the nobles, the ruler among the people, and all the people of the land, and led the king out of the Lord's house. They came with within the upper gate of the king's house and seated the king upon the royal thrones. All the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was quiet now that Athaliah had been slain with the sword. 2 Chronicles chapter 24. The temple restored. Joash was 7 years old when he became king, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zibiah from Beersheba. Joash did what was right in the Lord's sight as long as Jehoiada the priest lived. Jehoiada provided him with 2 wives, and he became the father of the son and the daughters. After some time, Joash decided to restore the house of the Lord. He gathered together the priests and the Levites and said to them, "Go out to the old city of the Judah and gather money from all the Israel, that you may repair the house of your God over the years. You must hurry this project," but Levites did not. Then the king summoned Jehoiada, who was in charge, and said to him, "Why have you not required the Levites to bring in from Judah and Jerusalem the tax levied by Moses, the servant of the Lord, and by the assembly of the Israel, for the tent of the testimony?" For the wicked Athaliah and her sons had damaged the house of the God and had ever turned over the bars, the holy things of the Lord's house. At the king's command, therefore, they made a chest which they put outside the gate of the Lord's house. They had it proclaimed throughout Judah and Jerusalem that the tax which Moses, the servant of God, had imposed on Israel in the wilderness should be brought to the Lord. All the princes and the people rejoiced. They brought what was asked and cast it into the chest until it was filled. Whenever the trust was brought to the royal official by the Levite and they noticed that there was a large amount of money, the royal scribe and the overseer for the chief priest would come up to empty the chest and then take it back and return it to its place. This they did day after day until they had collected the right sum of the money. Then the king of the Jehoiada gave it to the workers in charge of the labor on the Lord's house, who hired the masons and the carpenters to restore the Lord's house, and also iron and bronze smiths to repair it. The workers labored, and the task of the restoration progressed under their hands. They restored the house of the God according to its original form, and reinforced it. After they had finished, they brought the rest of the money to king and to Jehoiada, who had it made into utensils for the house of the Lord, utensils for the service and the burnt offering, and the basin and the other gold and silver utensils. They sacrificed the burnt offering in the Lord's house continually all the days of the Jehoiada. Jehoiada grew old, full of years, and died. He was 130 years old. They buried him in the city of David with the kings because of the good he had done in Israel, especially for God and his house. Joash Apostasy. After the death of the Jehoiada, prince of the Judah came and paid homage to the king. Then the king listened to them. They abandoned the house of the Lord, the God of their ancestors. He began to serve the Asherahs and the idols, and because of the crime of the theirs, wrath came upon Judah and Jerusalem. Although prophet was sent to them to turn them back to the Lord and to warn them, the people would not listen. Then the Spirit of God clothed Zechariah, son of the Jehoiada, the priest. He took his stand above the people and said to them, "Thus says the God, why are you transgressing the Lord's command so that you cannot prosper? Because you have abandoned the Lord, he has abandoned you." But they conspired against him, and at the king's command they stoned him in the court of the house of the Lord. Thus King Joash was unmindful of the devotion shown him by Jehoiada. Zechariah fathered and killed the son. As he was dying, he said, "May the Lord see and avenge." Joash punished. At the turn of the year, the force of the Arameans came against Joash. They invaded Judah and Jerusalem, killed all the princes of the people, and sent all their spoil to the king of the Damascus. Though the Aramean force was small, the Lord handed over the larger force into their power, because Judah had abandoned the Lord, the God of their ancestors. So judgment was meted out to Joash. After the Arameans had departed from him, abandoning him to his many injuries, his servant conspired against him because of the murder of the son of the Jehoiada, the priest. They killed him on the sick bed. He was buried in the city of David, but not in the tomb of the kings. Those who conspired against him were Zabed, the son of the Shemish, from Ammon, and Jehozabad, the son of the Shemish, from Moab. On account of his son, the great tribe imposed on him, and his rebuilding of the house of the God is written in the midrash of the book of the Kings. His son Amaziah succeeded him as king. Second Chronicles chapter 25. Amaziah's good start. Amaziah was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jehoiada from Jerusalem. He did what was right in the Lord's sight, though not wholeheartedly. When he had the kingdom firmly in hand, he struck down the official who had struck down the king his father. But their children he did not put to death, for he acted according to what is written in the law, in the book of the Moses, which the Lord commanded. Parents shall not be put to death for their children, nor shall children be put to death for their parents. They shall each die for their own sin. Amaziah gathered Judah and placed them out of all Judah and Benjamin according to their ancestral houses, on the leader of the thousand and of hundreds. When he made a count of those 20 years old and over, he found that there were 300,000 picked men fit for wars, capable of handling lance and shield. He also hired 100,000 valiant warriors from Israel for 100 talents of the silver. But a man of the God came to him and said, O kings, let not the army of Israel go with you, for the Lord is not with Israel, with any Ephraimite. Instead, go on your own, strongly prepared for the battle. Why should the Lord hinder you in the face of the enemies? For with God is power to help or to hinder. Amaziah answered the man of God, but what is to be done about the 100 talents that I paid for the troop of the Israel? The man of God replied, the Lord can give you much more than that. Amaziah then disbanded the troops that had come to him from Ephraim and sent them home. But they became furiously angry with Judah and returned home blazing with anger. Amaziah now assumed the command of his army. They proceeded to the valley of the sword, where they killed 10,000 men of the Seir. The Judahites also brought back another 10,000 alive and led them to the summit of the Silla, and then threw them down from the rock so that their bodies split open. Meanwhile, the troops Amaziah had dismissed from going into battle with him raided the city of the Judah from Samaria to Beth Horon. They struck down 3,000 of the inhabitants and carried off much plunder. Amaziah's apostasy. When Amaziah returned from his conquest of the Edomite, he brought back with him the God of the people of the Seir. He set this up as his own God. He bowed down before them and offered sacrifice to them. Then the anger of the Lord blazed out against Amaziah. He sent the prophet to him who said, "Why have you sought his people, God? They could not deliver their own people from your powers." While he was still speaking, however, the king said to him, "Have you been appointed the king of counselors? Stop. Why should you have to be killed?" Therefore the prophet stopped. But he said, "I know that God's counsel is your destruction, for by doing this you have refused to listen to my counsel." Amaziah punished. Having taken counsel, Amaziah king of Judah sent word to the Joash son of the Ahaz, son of the the king of Israel, saying, "Come, let us meet face to face." Joash king of Israel sent this reply to Amaziah king of Judah: "A tittle of the Lebanon sent word to the seed of the Lebanon, give your daughter to my son in marriage." But an animal of the Lebanon passed by and trampled the thistles underfoot. You are thinking, "See, I have struck down Edom." Your heart is lifted up and glorious in it. Stay home. Why bring misfortune and failure on yourself and on Judah with you? But Amaziah did not listen, for it was God doing that they be handed over, because they sought the God of the Edom. So Joash king of Israel advanced. He and Amaziah king of Judah met face to face at the Beth Shemesh of the Judah. And Judah was defeated by Israel, and all fled their tents. But Amaziah king of Judah, son of the Joash, son of the Ahaz, was captured by Joash king of Israel at the Beth Shemesh. Joash brought him to the Jerusalem and tore down the wall of the Jerusalem from gate of the Ephraim to the corner gate, 400 cubits. He took all the gold and silver and all the vessels found in the house of the God with Obed-Edom, and in the treasure of the king's house, and the hostage as well. Then he returned to Samaria. Amaziah son of the Joash king of the Judah survived Joash son of the Ahaz king of Israel by 15 years. The rest of the act of the Amaziah, first and last, are recorded in the book of the kings of the Judah and Israel. Now from the time that Amaziah turned away from the Lord, a conspiracy was formed against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to the Lachish. But he was pursued to the Lachish and killed there. He was brought back on horses and was buried with his ancestors in the city of the Judah. 2 Chronicles chapter 26, Uzziah project. All the people of the Judah took the Uzziah, who was only 16 years old, and made him king to succeed Amaziah his father. It was he who rebuilt the Elas and restored it to the Judah after the king rested with his ancestors. Uzziah was 16 years old when he became king, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zechariah from Jerusalem. He did what was right in the Lord's sight, just as his father Amaziah had done. He was prepared to seek God as long as Zechariah lived, who taught him to fear God, and as long as he sought the Lord, God made him prosper. He went out and fought the Philistines and raised the walls against Jabneh and Ashdod, and built the city in the district of the Ashdod and in Philistia. God helped him against the Philistines, against the Arabians who dwelt in the Gorbals, and against the Meunites. The Ammonites paid tribute to Uzziah, and his fame spread as far as Egypt, for he grew stronger and stronger. Moreover, Uzziah built the tower in Jerusalem at the corner gate, at the valley gate, and at the angles, and he fortified them. He built the towers in the wilderness and dug numerous cisterns, for he had many cattle. He had plowmen in the Shephelah and the plains, farmers and vine dressers in the highland and the garden land. He was a lover of the soil. Uzziah also had a standing army of the fit soldiers divided into bands according to the number in which they were mustered by Jair, the scribe, and Maaseiah, the recorders, under the command of the Hananiah, one of the king's officials. The entire number of the family heads over these valiant warriors was 2,600. And at the disposal was a mighty army of the 307,500 fighting men of the great valor to help the king against his enemies. Uzziah provided for them, for the entire army, bucklers, lances, helmet, breastplate, bows, and sling stones. He also built a machine in Jerusalem, devised designed to stand on the tower of and at the angle of the walls to shoot arrows and cast rise stones. His name spread far and wide. The help he received was wondrous, so strong did he become. Pride and falls. But after he had become strong, he became arrogant to his own destruction and acted treacherously with the Lord his God. He entered the temple of the Lord to make an offering on the altar of the incense. But Azariah the priest and with him 80 other priests of the Lord, the courageous men, followed him. They stood up to King Uzziah, saying to him, "It is not for you, Uzziah, to burn incense to the Lord, but for the priest, the son of Aaron, who have been consecrated for this purpose. Leave the sanctuary, for you have acted treacherously and no longer have a part in the glory that comes from the Lord God." Uzziah, who was holding a censer for burning the incense, became angry, but at the very moment he showed his anger to the priest. While they were looking at him in the house of the Lord beside the altar of the incense, leprosy broke out on his forehead. Azariah the chief priest and all the other priests examined him, and when they saw that his forehead was leprous, they rushed him out. He let himself be expelled, for the Lord had afflicted him. King Uzziah remained a leper till the day he died. As a leper he lived in the house apart, for he was excluded from the house of the Lord. Therefore his son Jotham was master of the palace and ruled the people of the land. The rest of the act of the Uzziah, first and last, was written by Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos. Uzziah rested with his ancestors and was buried with them in the field adjoining the royal cemeteries, for they said, "He was a leper." His son Jotham succeeded him as king. 2 Chronicles chapter 27, Jotham. Jotham was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jerusha, daughter of the Zadok. He did what was right in the Lord's sight, just as his father Uzziah had done. Though he did not enter the temple of the Lord, the people, however, continued to act corruptly. It was he who built the upper gate of the Lord's house and did much construction on the wall of the Pharaohs. Moreover, he built the city in the hill country of the Judah, and in the wooded areas he set up fortresses and towers. He fought with the king of the Ammonites and conquered them. That year the Ammonites paid him 100 talents of the silver, together with the 10,000 oars of the wheat and the 10,000 of the barley. They brought the same to him also in the second and in the third years. Thus Jotham continued to grow strong, because he made sure to walk before the Lord his God. The rest of the act of the Jotham, his words and his activities, are recorded in the book of the kings of the Israel and Judah. He was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. Jotham rested with his ancestor and was buried in the city of David, and his son Ahaz succeeded him as king. 2 Chronicles chapter 28, Ahaz's misdeed. Ahaz was 20 years old when he became king, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. He did not do what was right in the sight of the Lord, as David his father had done. He walked in the way of the kings of Israel and even made molten idols for the Baals. Moreover, he offered sacrifice in the valley of the Ben Hinnoms and immolated his children by fire in accordance with the abominable practice of the nation, whom the Lord had dispossessed before the Israelites. He sacrificed and burned incense on the high places, on hills, and under every green trees. Ahaz punished. Therefore the Lord his God delivered him into the power of the king of the Aram. The Arameans defeated him and carried away captive a large number of his peoples, whom they brought to the Damascus. He was also delivered into the power of the king of the Israel, who defeated him with great slaughters. For Pekah, son of the Remaliah, killed 120,000 of the Judah in single days, all of them a valiant men, because they had abandoned the Lord, the God of their ancestors. Zikri, an Ephraimite warriors, killed Maaseiah, the king's sons, and Azrikam, the master of the palace, and also Elkanah, who was second to the kings. The Israelites took away as captives 200,000 of their kinsfolk's wives, sons, and daughters. They also took from them much plunder, which they brought to the Samaria. Oded the prophecy. In Samaria there was a prophet of the Lord by the name of the Oded. He went out to meet the army returning to Samaria and said to them, "It was because the Lord, the God of your ancestors, was angry with Judah that he delivered them into your power. You, however, have killed them with a fury that has reached up to heaven. And now you are planning to subjugate the people of Judah and Jerusalem as your slaves and bondwomen. Are not you yourselves therefore guilty of the crime against the Lord your God? Now listen to me, send back the captives you have carried out from among your kings, for the burning anger of the Lord is upon you." At this, some of the Ephraimite leaders, Azariah son of the Johanan, Berechiah son of Meshullemoth, Jehikiah son of the Salom, and Amashah son of the Hadelai, themselves stood up in opposition to those who had returned from the wars. They said to them, "Do not bring the captives here, for what you are planning will make us guilty before the Lord and increase our sins and our guilt. Great is our guilt, and there is burning anger upon Israel." Therefore the soldiers left their captives and the plunder before the princes and the whole assemblies. Then the men just named proceed to the help of the captives. All of them who were naked they clothed from the spoils. They clothed them, put sandals on their feet, gave them food and drinks, anointed them. And all were weak, they sat on donkeys. They brought them to Jericho, the city of the palms, to their kinsfolks. Then they returned to Samaria. Further sin of Ahaz. At that time, King Ahaz sent the appeal for the help to king of the Assyria. The Edomites had returned, attacked Judah, and carried out the captives. The Philistines too have raided the city of the Shephelah and they gave up the Judah. They captured the Beth Shemesh, Aizaron, Gederos, Soko and its dependencies, Timnah and its dependencies, and Gimzo and its dependencies, and settled there. For the Lord had brought Judah low because of the Ahaz king of Israel, who let Judah go its own way and committed a treachery against the Lord. Till God's spirit Nebuchadnezzar, king of the Assyria, did indeed come to him, but to oppress him rather than to lend strength. Though Ahaz plundered the Lord's house and the houses of the king and the prince to pay off the king of the Assyria, it was no help to him. While he was already in distress, the same King Ahaz increased his treachery to the Lord. He sacrificed to the god of Damascus who had defeated him, saying, "Since it was the god of the king of the Aram who helped them, I'll sacrifice to them that they may help me also." However, they only furthered this downfall and the death of all Israel. Ahaz gathered up the utensils of the house and broke them in pieces. He closed the door of the Lord's house and made altars for himself in every corner of Jerusalem. In every city throughout Judah, he set up high places to offer sacrifice to other gods. Thus he provoked the Lord, the God of his ancestors, to anger. The rest of the words and his deeds, first and last, are recorded in the book of the kings of the Judah and Israel. Ahaz rested with his ancestors and was buried in Jerusalem in the city, for they did not bring him to the tomb of the king of the Israel. His son Hezekiah succeeded him as king. 2 Chronicles chapter 29, Hezekiah reforms. Hezekiah was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Abijah, daughter of Zechariah. He did what was right in the Lord's sight, just as David his father had done. In the first month of the first year of his reign, he opened the door of the Lord's house and repaired them. He summoned the priests and the Levites, gathering them in the open space to the east, and said to them, "Listen to me, you Levites. Sanctify yourselves now and sanctify the house of the Lord, the God of your ancestors, and clean out the filth from the sanctuaries." Our ancestors acted treacherously and did what was evil in the eyes of the Lord, our God. They abandoned him, turned away their face from the Lord's dwelling, and turned their backs on him. They also closed the door of the vestibules, extinguished the lamps, and failed to burn incense and sacrifice burnt offering in the sanctuary to the God of Israel. Therefore, anger of the Lord has come upon Judah and Jerusalem. He has made them an object of terror, horror, and hissing, as you see with your own eyes. For our ancestors fell by the sword, and our sons, our daughters, and our wives have been taken captive because of this. Now I intend to make a covenant with the Lord, the God of Israel, that his burning anger may turn away from us. My sons, do not be negligent any longer, for it is you whom the Lord has chosen to stand before him, to minister to him, to be his minister, and to offer incense. Then the Levite arose, Mahal son of the Amasite, and Joel son of the Azariah, of the Kohathites, of the descendant of the Merari race, Kish son of the Abdiz, and Azariah son of the Zehariah, of the Gershonite, Joar son of the Jimma, and Eden son of Joar. Of the sons of the Elizaphaz, the Shimri and the Jewel, of the son of the Asaph, Zechariah and Mattaniah. Of the sons of the Heman, Jewel and the Shimei. Of the son of the Zeduthun, Shemaiah and Uzziah. They gathered their kinfolk together and sanctified themselves. Then they came as the king had ordered, in keeping with the rules of the Lord, to cleanse the Lord's house. The priests entered the interior of the Lord's house to cleanse it. Whatever they found in the Lord's temple that was unclean, they brought out to the court of the Lord's house. where the Levites took it from them and carried it out to the Wadi Kidrons. They began the work of the consecration on the first day of the first month, and on the 8 days of the month they reached the vestibule of the Lord. They consecrated the Lord's house over the 8-day period, and on the 16th day of the first month they had finished. Then they went inside to the king Hezekiah and said, We have cleansed the entire house of the Lord, the altar of the burnt offering with all its utensils, and the table for the showbread with all its utensils. We have restored and consecrated all the articles which King Ahaz had thrown away during his reign because of his treacheries. They are now before the Lord's altars, the light of the expiation. Then the king Hezekiah hastened to convoke the prince of the city and went up to the Lord's house. 7 bulls, 7 lambs, 7 lambs, and 7 he-goats were presented as a purification offering for the kingdom. For the sanctuary and for the Judah, Hezekiah ordered the son of Aaron the priest to offer them to the altar of the Lord. They slaughtered the bulls, and the priest collected the blood and splashed it on the altar. Then they slaughtered the lambs and splashed the blood on the altars. Then they slaughtered the lambs and splashed the blood on the altar. Then the he-goat for the purification offering were ready before the king and the assembly, who laid their hands upon them. The priest then slaughtered them and offered their blood on the altar to atone for the sin of the Israel. He stationed the Levites in the Lord's house with the cymbals, harps, and the lyres, according to the command of the David, of Gad the king of Syria, and of the Nathan the prophet. For this command was from the Lord through his prophets. The Levite was stationed with the instrument of the David, and the priest with the trumpets. Then Hezekiah ordered the burnt offering to be sacrificed on the altar. At the very moment the burnt offering began, they also began the song of the Lord to the accompaniment of the trumpets and the instrument of the David king of Israel. The entire assembly bowed down, and the song was sung and the trumpet sounded until the burnt offering had been completed. Once the burnt offering was completed, the king and all who were with him knelt and worshipped. Since there were too few priests to skin all the victims for the burnt offering, their fellow Levites assisted them until the task was completed, and the priests had sanctified themselves. The Levites, in fact, were more careful than the priests to sanctify themselves. King Hezekiah had the prince then told the Levites to sing the praise of the Lord in the words of the David of the Asaph the seer. They sang praise till their joy was full, then fell down and worshipped. Hezekiah then said, You have dedicated yourself to the Lord. Approach and bring forward the sacrifice and the thanks offering for the house of the Lord. Then the assembly brought forward the sacrifice and the thanks offering and all their voluntary burnt offerings. The number of the burnt offering that the assembly brought forward was 70 oxen, 100 lambs, and 200 lambs. All of these as a burnt offering to the Lord. As a consecrated gift, there were 600 oxen and 3,000 sheep. The burnt offering were indeed many, along with the fat of the communion offering and the libation for the burnt offerings. Thus the service of the house of the Lord was re-established. Hezekiah and all the people rejoiced over what God had re-established for the peoples, and at how suddenly this had been done. 2 Chronicles chapter 30, Invitation to Passover. Hezekiah sent the word to the all Israel and Judah, and even wrote the letters to the Ephraim and Manasseh. saying that they should come to the house of the Lord in Jerusalem to celebrate the Passover to the Lord, the God of Israel. The king, his princes, and the entire assembly in Jerusalem had agreed to celebrate the Passover during the second month. They could not celebrate it at the regular time because the priests had not sanctified themselves in sufficient numbers, and the people were not gathered at Jerusalem. This seemed right to the king and the entire assemblies. And they issued a decree to be proclaimed throughout all Israel from Beersheba to Dan, that everyone should come to celebrate the Passover to the Lord, the God of Israel, in Jerusalem, for not many had kept it in the prescribed manner. By the king's command, the couriers with the letters written by the king and his princes went through all Israel and Judah. They said the Israelites return to the Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, that he may return to you, the remnant left from the hands of the Assyrian kings. Do not be like your ancestors and your kin who act treacherously toward the Lord, the God of their ancestors, so that he handed them over to desolation, as you yourselves now see. Do not be stiff-necked as your ancestors were. Stretch out your hand to the Lord and come to a sanctuary that he has consecrated forever, and serve the Lord your God, that he may turn his burning anger from you. If you return to the Lord, your kinfolk and your children will find mercy with their captors and return to this land. The Lord your God is gracious and merciful, and he will not turn away his face from you if you return to him. So the couriers passed from the city to city in the land of the Ephraim and the Manasseh and as far as the Zebulun, but they were derided and scoffed at. Nevertheless, some from Asher, Manasseh, and Zebulun humbled themselves and came to Jerusalem. In Judah, however, the hand of God brought it about that the people were of their own heart to carry out the command of the king and the princes by the rule of the Lord. Thus many people gathered in Jerusalem to celebrate the feast of the unleavened bread in the second month. It was a very great assembly. Passover celebrated. They proceeded to remove the altars that were in Jerusalem, as well as the altar of the incense, and cast them into the Wadi Kidron. They slaughtered the Passover on the 14th day of the second month. The priests and the Levites were shamed into sanctifying themselves, and brought burnt offering into the house of the Lord. They stood in the place prescribed for them according to the law of the Moses, the man of the God. The priests splashed the blood given them by the Levites. For many in the assembly had not sanctified themselves, and the Levites were in charge of the slaughtering the Passover victims for all who were unclean, so as to consecrate them to the Lord. The great part of the people, in fact, the children from Ephraim, Manasseh, Issachar, and Zebulun, had not cleansed themselves. Nevertheless, they ate the Passover contrary to the prescription, because Hezekiah prayed for them, saying, "May the good Lord grant pardon too." And who have set their heart to seek God, the Lord God of their ancestors, even though they are not clean as holiness requires. The Lord heard Hezekiah and healed the peoples. Thus the Israelites who were in Jerusalem celebrate the feast of the unleavened bread with great rejoicing for 7 days. And the Levites and the priests sang the praise of the Lord day after day with all their strength. Hezekiah spoke encouragingly to all the Levites who had shown themselves well skilled in the service of the Lord. And when they had completed the 7 days of the festival, sacrificing communion offering and singing praise to the Lord, the God of their ancestors, the whole assembly agreed to celebrate another 7 days, so with joy they celebrate the 7 days more. King Hezekiah of the Judah had contributed 1,000 bulls and 7,000 sheep to the assemblies, and the princes 1,000 bulls and 10,000 sheep. The priests sanctified themselves in great numbers. And the whole assembly of the Judah rejoiced together with the priest and the Levite and the rest of the assembly that had come from Israel, as well as the resident aliens from the land of Israel and those that lived in Judah. There was great rejoicing in Jerusalem, for since the day of the Solomon son of David, king of Israel, there had been nothing like it in the city. Then the Levitical priests rose and blessed the people. Their voice was heard and their prayer reached heaven, God's holy dwelling. 2 Chronicles chapter 31, ritual reforms. After all this was over, those Israelites who had been present went forth to the city of the Judah and smashed the sacred pillars, cut down the Asherahs and tore down the high place and the altars throughout Judah, Benjamin, Ephraim, and Manasseh, until they were all destroyed. Then the Israelites returned to their cities, each to his own possession. Hezekiah re-established the division of the priest and the Levite according to their former divisions, assigning to each priest and the Levite his proper service, whether in regard to burnt offering or communion offering, thanksgiving or praise, or ministering in the gate of the encampment of the roads. From his own rest, the king allotted a portion for the burnt offering, those of the morning and evening, and those on Sabbaths, new moons, and the festivals, as is written in the law of the Lord. He also commanded the people living in Jerusalem to provide for the support of the priest and the Levite, that they might firmly adhere to the law of the Lord. As soon as the order was promulgated, the Israelites brought in great quantities, the best of their grain, wine, oil, and honey, and all produce of the fairs. They gave a generous tithe of everything. Israelites and the Judahites living in other cities of the Judah also brought in tithe of oxen, sheep, and the votive offering consecrated to the Lord their God. These they brought in and heaped up in piles. It was in third month that they began to establish these heaps, and they completed them in 7th month. When Hezekiah and the prince had come and seen the piles, they blessed the Lord and his people Israel. Then Hezekiah questioned the priest and the Levite concerning the piles. And the priest Azariah, head of the house of the Zadok, answered him, since they began to bring the offering to the house of the Lord, we have even been satisfied and have much left over, for the Lord has blessed his people. This great supply is what was left over. Hezekiah then gave orders that chambers be constructed in the house of the Lord. When this had been done, they deposited the offering, tithe, and the votive offering there for safekeeping. The overseer of these things was Conaniah, the Levite, and his brother Shimei was second in command. Zeiel, Azaziah, Nahas, Asael, Jeremos, Josaphat, Elias, Imazkiah, Mahaz, and Benaniah was supervisor subject to the Conaniah the Levite and his brother Shimei by appointment of the king Hezekiah and of the Azariah, the prefect of the house of the God. Korah, the son of the Imrah, the Levite and the keeper of the eastern gate, was in charge of the volunteer offering made to the God. He distributed the offering made to the Lord and the most holy of the votive offerings. Under him in the priestly city were Eden, Minamim, Jeshua, Shemaiah, Amariah, and Shechaniah, who faithfully made the distribution to their brothers, great and small alike, according to their divisions. There was also registered by ancestral houses of the male 3 years of the age and over, for all priests who were eligible to enter the house of the Lord according to daily schedule to fulfill their service in the order of their divisions. The priests were inscribed in their family records according to their ancestral houses, as were the Levites 20 years of the age and over according to their various office and divisions. A distribution was also made to all who were inscribed in the family records for their little ones, wives, sons, and daughters, thus for the entire assembly, since they were to sanctify themselves by showing faithfully in the votive offerings. The sons of Aaron the priest who live on the land attached to their cities had in every city men designated by name to distribute the portion to every male of the priest and to every Levite listed in the family records. Hezekiah did this in all Judah. He did what was good, upright, and faithful before the Lord his God. Everything that he undertook for the service of the house of the God or for the law and the commandment was to seek his God. He did this with all his heart and he prospered. Second Chronicles chapter 32, Sennacherib's invasion. But after all this and all Hezekiah's fidelity, there came Sennacherib, king of Assyria. He invaded Judah and besieged the fortified cities, intending to breach and take them. When Hezekiah saw that Sennacherib was coming with the intention of attacking Jerusalem, he took the advice of the prince and the warrior to stop the water of the spring outside the city. They promised their help. A large force was gathered and stopped all the spring and also the stream running nearby. For they said, "Why should the kings of the Assyria come and find an abundance of waters?" He then looked to his defenses. He rebuilt the wall where it was broken down, raised towers upon it, and built another wall outside. He strengthened the middle of the city of David and made a great number of the spears and shields. Then he appointed army commanders over the people. He gathered them together in his presence in the open space at the gate of the city, and encouraged them with these words: "Be strong and steadfast. Do not be afraid or dismayed because of the king of the Assyria and all the horde coming with him. For there is more with us than with him. He has only an arm of the flesh, but he have the Lord our God to help us and to fight our battles." And the people took confidence from the word of the Hezekiah, king of the Judah, threat of the Sennacheribs. After this, while Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, himself remained at Lachish with all his forces, he sent his official to Jerusalem with the message for Hezekiah, king of Judah, and all the Judahites who were in Jerusalem. Thus said Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, "In what are you trusting now that you are under siege in Jerusalem? Is not Hezekiah deceiving you, delivering you over to death of the famine and the thirst, by his claim that the Lord our God will rescue us from the grasp of the king of the Assyria? Has not this same Hezekiah removed the Lord's own high place and the altars and commanded Judah and Jerusalem, 'You shall bow down before the one altar only, and on it alone you shall offer incense. Do you not know what my father and I have done to all the people of the other hands? Were the God of the nation in those lands able to rescue their land from my hands? Who among all the gods of those nations which my father put under the ban was able to rescue their people from my hand? Will your God then be able to rescue you from my hand? Let the Hezekiah mislead your father and deceive you in any such way. Do not believe him. Since no other god of any other nation or kingdom has been able to rescue his people from my hand or hands of my fathers, how much the rest shall your God rescue you from my hand? His officials said still more against the Lord God and against his servant Hezekiah. For here the reader led us to deride the Lord, the God of Israel, speaking of him in these terms, as the God of the nation in other land have not rescued their people from my hand. Neither shall Hezekiah God rescue his people from my hand. In a loud voice they shouted in the language of the Judah to the people of the Jerusalem who were on the wall to frighten and terrify them so that they might capture their city. They spoke of the God of Israel as though he were one of the gods of the other people of the earth or work of the human hands. But because of this, King Hezekiah and Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz, prayed and cried out to heaven. Sennacherib's defeat. Then the Lord sent the angel who destroyed every warrior's leader and commander in the camp of the Assyrian kings, so that he had to return shamefaced to his own countries. And when he entered the temple of his God, some of his own offspring struck him down there with the sword. Thus the Lord saved Hezekiah and the inhabitants of the Jerusalem from the hand of the Sennacheribs, king of Assyria, as from every other power. He gave them rest on every side. Many brought gifts for the Lord to the Jerusalem and the costly objects for Hezekiah, king of the Judah, who thereafter was exalted in the eyes of all the nations. Hezekiah later reigned. In those days Hezekiah became mortally ill. He prayed to the Lord, who answered him by giving him a sign. Hezekiah, however, did not respond with like generosity, for he had become arrogant. Therefore wrath descended upon him and upon Judah and Jerusalem. But then Hezekiah humbled himself for his pride, both he and the inhabitants of the Jerusalem. And therefore the wrath of the Lord did not come upon them during time of the Hezekiah. Hezekiah possessed very great wealth and glory. He made treasuries for his silver, gold, precious stones, spices, jewels, and other precious things of all kinds. Also strong houses for the harvest of grain, for wine and oil, and barns for the various kinds of the cattle and flocks. He built the city for himself, and he acquired sheep and oxen in great numbers, for God gave him very great riches. This same Hezekiah stopped the upper outlet for water from Gihon and redirected it underground westward to the city of David. Hezekiah prospered in all his works. Nevertheless, in respect to the ambassador of the Babylonian official who were sent to him to investigate to the sign that had occurred in the land, God abandoned him as a test to know all that was in his heart. The rest of the Hezekiah act, including his good deed, are recorded in the vision of the Isaiah the prophet, son of Amoz, and in the book of the kings of the Judah and Israel. Hezekiah rested with his ancestors. He was buried at the opposite tomb of the descendant of the David. All Judah and the inhabitants of the Jerusalem paid him honor at his death. His son Manasseh succeeded him as king. 2 Chronicles chapter 33, Manasseh impiety. Manasseh was 12 years old when he became king, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem. He rebuilt the high places which Hezekiah, his father, had torn down. He set up altars to the Baals and also made Asherahs. He bowed down to the whole host of the heaven and served them. He rebuilt the high places which his father Hezekiah had torn down, erected altars for the Baals, made sacred poles, and prostrated himself before the whole host of the heaven and worshipped them. He built the altars in the house of the Lord, of which the Lord had said, "In Jerusalem shall my name be forever." And he built the altars to the whole host of the heaven in the two courts of the house of the Lord. It was he too who immolated his children by fire in the valley of the Ben Hinnom. He practiced soothing and divination, and reintroduced the consulting of ghosts and spirits. He did much evil in the Lord's sight and provoked him to anger. An idol he had made he placed in the house of the God, of which God had said to David and to his son Solomon, "In this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all the tribe of the Israel, I shall set my name forever. I will no longer make Israel step out of the land I assigned to your ancestors, provided that they are careful to observe all I commanded them, the entire law, the statute, and the ordinance given by Moses." Manasseh misled Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem into doing even great evil than the nation the Lord had destroyed at the coming of the Israelites. The Lord spoke to the Manasseh and his people, but they paid no attention. Manasseh conversion. Therefore the Lord brought against them the army commander of the Assyrian kings. They captured Manasseh with hooks, shackled him with chains, and transported him to Babylon. In his distress, he began to appease the Lord his God. He humbled himself abjectly before the God of the ancestors, and prayed to him. The Lord he let himself be won over. He heard his prayer and restored him to his kingdom in Jerusalem. Then Manasseh knew that the Lord is indeed God. Afterward, he built the outer wall for the city of David to the west of the Gihon in the valley, extending to the fish gate and the encircling of Phares. He built it very high. He stationed army officials in all the fortified cities of Judah. He removed the foreign god and the idol from the Lord's house, and all the altars he had built on the mount of the Lord's house and in Jerusalem, and cast them outside the city. He restored the altar of the Lord and sacrificed on it the communion offering and the thanks offerings, and commanded Judah to serve the Lord God of Israel. Though the people continued to sacrifice on the high places, they now did so to the Lord their God. The rest of the act of the Manasseh, his prayer to his God, and the words of the seer who spoke to him in the name of the Lord, the God of Israel, are written in the Chronicles of the kings of the Israel. His prayer and how his supplication was heard, all his sin and his treacheries, the site where he built the high place and set up Asherah and the carved images before the humble himself. All this is recorded in the Chronicle of his seers. Manasseh rested with his ancestors and was buried in his own palace. His son Amon succeeded him as king. Amon was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned 2 years in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight, as his father Manasseh had done. Amon offered sacrifice to all idols his father Manasseh had made, and served them. Moreover, he did not humble himself before the Lord as his father Manasseh had humbled himself. On the contrary, Amon only increased his guilt. His officials plotted against him and put him to death in his palace. But the people of the land then slew all who had plotted against King Amon, and the people of the land made his son Josiah king in his stead. 2 Chronicles chapter 34, Joshua reforms. Joshua was 8 years old when he became king, and he reigned 31 years in Jerusalem. He did what was right in the Lord's sight, walking in the way of David his father, not turning right or left. In the 8 years of his reign, while he was still a youth, he began to seek out the God of David his father. Then, in his 12th year, he began to purify Judah and Jerusalem of the high places, the Asherahs and the calves and the molten images. In his presence, the altar of the Baals were torn down, the incense stand erected above them he broke down. The Asherahs and the calves and the molten images he smashed and beat into dust, which he scattered over the tomb of those who had sacrificed to them. And the bones of the priests he burned upon the altars, thus he purified Judah and Jerusalem. He did likewise in the city of the Manasseh, Ephraim, Simeon, and in the ruined village of the surrounding country as far as Naphtali. He tore down the altar and the Asherahs and the calves' image he beat into dust, and broke down the incense stand throughout the land of Israel. Then he returned to Jerusalem, the temple restored. The 18th year of his reign, in order to purify the land and the temple, he sent Shaphan, son of the Azarias, Messiah, the ruler of the city, and Joah, son of the Joahaz, the chancellor, to restore the house of the Lord his God. They came to Hilkiah the high priest and turned over the money brought to the house of the God, which the Levite, the guardian of the thresholds, had collected from Manasseh, Ephraim, and all the remnant of Israel, as well as from all of the Judah, Benjamin, and the inhabitants of the Jerusalem. They turned it over the master workers in the house of the Lord, and these in turn used it to pay workers in the Lord's house who are restoring and repairing it. They also gave it to the carpenters and the masons to buy hewn stone and the timber for the tie beams and the rafters of the building, which the king of the Judah had allowed to fall into ruin. The men worked faithfully at their task. Their overseers were Jahaz and Obadiah, Levite of the line of the Merarites, and Zechariah and Meshullam of the Kohathites, who directed them, all those Levites who were skillful with musical instruments, were in charge of the men who carried the burden, and they directed all the workers in every kind of the labor. Some of the older Levites were scribes, officials, and the gatekeepers. The finding of the law. When they brought out the money that had been deposited in the house of the Lord, Hilkiah the priest found the book of the law of the Lord given through Moses. He reported this to the Shaphan the scribe, saying, I have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord. Hilkiah gave the book to Shaphan, who brought it to the king at the same time that he made his report to him. He said, Your servants are doing everything that has been entrusted to them. They have smelted down to the silver deposited in the Lord's house, and have turned it over to overseers and the workers. Then Shaphan the scribe also informed the king, Hilkiah the priest has given me a book. And then Shaphan read it in the presence of the king. When the king heard the words of the law, he tore his garments. The king then issued a command to Hilkiah, to Ahikam, son of the Shaphan, to Abdon, son of the Micah, to Shaphan the scribe and to Isaiah the king's servant. Go consult the Lord for me and for those who are left in Israel and Judah about the words of the book that has been found. For the anger of the Lord burns furiously against us, because our ancestors did not keep the words of the Lord and have not done all that is written in this book. Then Hilkiah and others from the king went to Huldah the prophet, wife of the Salom, son of the Tokhar, the son of the Hashorah, keep up the wardrobe. As she lived in Jerusalem in the second court, they spoke to her as they had been instructed. And she said to them, Thus said the Lord, the God of Israel, say to the man who sent you to me, Thus said the Lord, I am about to bring evil upon this place and upon its inhabitants. All the curses written in the book that was read before the king of the Judah. Because they had abandoned me and have burned incense to the other god, provoking me by all the work of their hands, my anger burns against the place and it cannot be extinguished. But to the king of the Judah who sent you to consult the Lord, give the response. Thus said the Lord, the God of Israel, as for the words you have heard. Because you were hot-stick and have humbled yourself before God when you heard his words concerning this place and its inhabitants. Because you humbled yourself before me, tore your garment and wept before me, I in turn have heard the oracle of the Lord. I'll gather you to your ancestors, and you shall go to your grave in peace, and your eyes shall not see all the evil I am about to bring upon this place and upon its inhabitants. This day are reported to the kings. Covenant renewals. The king then had all the elders of the Judah and of the Jerusalem summoned before him. The king went up to the house of the Lord with all the people of the Judah and the inhabitants of the Jerusalem. Priests, the Levites, and all the people, great and small, he read aloud to them all words of the book of the covenant that had been found in the house of the Lord. The king stood by the column and made the covenant in the presence of the Lord to follow the Lord and to observe his commandments, statutes, and decrees with his whole heart and soul, caring about the words of the covenant written in this book. He thereby committed all who were in Jerusalem and Benjamin and the inhabitants of the Jerusalem act according to the covenant of the God of their ancestors. Joshua removed every abomination from all the territories belonging to the Israelites, and he obliged all who were in Israel to serve the Lord their God. During his lifetime, they did not turn away from following the Lord, the God of their ancestors. 2 Chronicles chapter 35, the Passover. Joshua celebrated in Jerusalem Passover to honor the Lord. The Passover sacrifice was slaughtered on the 14th day of the first month. He reappointed the priests to their duties and confirmed them in the service of the Lord's house. He said to the Levites who were to instruct all Israel and who were consecrated to the Lord, put the holy ark in the house built by Solomon, son of David, king of the Israel. It shall no longer be a burden on your shoulders. Serve now the Lord your God and his people Israel. Prepare yourselves by your ancestral houses and your division according to the prescription of David, king of Israel, and the prescription of his son Solomon. Stand in the sanctuary according to the branch of the ancestral houses of your kin, the common people, so that the distribution of the Levite and the families may be the same. Slaughter the Passover sacrifice, sanctify yourselves, and be at the position of your kings, that all may be done according to the word of the Lord given through Moses. Joshua contributed to the common people a flock of the lambs and the young goat, 30,000 in numbers, each to serve as a Passover victim for all present, and also 3,000 oxen. These were from the king's properties. His princes also gave the freewill gift to the people, the priest and the Levite, Hilkiah, Zechariah, and Zeir, prefect of the house of the God, gave to the priest 2,600 Passover victims together with 300 oxen. Conaniah and his brother Shemaiah, Nathaniel, Hashabiah, Zeir, and Jozabad, the ruler of the Levite, contribute to the Levite 5,000 Passover victims, together with 500 oxen. When the service had been arranged, the priests took their place, as did the Levite in their division according to the king's command. The Passover sacrifice was slaughtered, whereupon the priest splashed some of the blood, and the Levite proceeded with the skinnings. They separated out the waters destined for the burnt offering and gave it to the various groups of the ancestral houses of the common people to offer to the Lord. As is written in the book of the Moses, they did the same with the oxen. They cooked the Passover on the fire as prescribed, and also cooked the sacred portion in pots, cauldron, and the pans, then brought them quickly to all the common peoples. Afterward, they prepared the Passover for themselves and for the priest. Indeed, the priest, the son of Aaron, were busy sacrificing burnt offering and the fatty portion until night. Therefore, the Levite prepared for themselves and for the priest, the son of Aaron. The singer, the son of Asaph, were at the post as commanded by David and by Asaph, Heman, and Jeduthun, the king of the Seir. The gatekeepers were at every gate. There was no need for them to leave their station, for their fellow Levite prepared for them. Thus the entire service of the Lord was arranged that day, so that the Passover could be celebrated and the burnt offering sacrificed on the altar of the Lord, as King Joshua had commanded. The Israelites who were present on that occasion kept the Passover and the feast of the unleavened bread for 7 days. No such Passover had been observed in Israel since the time of the Samuel the prophet. No king of the Israel had observed the Passover like that celebrated by Joshua the priest and the Levite, all of Judah and Israel that were present, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. It was in 18th year of the Joshua reign that this Passover was observed. Joshua end. After Joshua had done all this to restore the temple, Necho, the king of Egypt, came up to the fight at the Carchemish on the Euphrates, and Joshua went out to meet him. Necho sent a messenger to him, saying, "What quarrel is between us, king of Judah? I will not come against you this day, for my war is with another kingdom, and God has told me to hasten. Do not interfere with God who is with me, let him not destroy you." But Joshua would not withdraw from him, for he was seeking pretext to fight with him. Therefore he would not listen to the words of the Necho that came from the mouth of the God, but went out to fight in the plain of the Megiddo. Then the archer shot the king Joshua, who said to his servant, "Take me away, I am seriously wounded." His servant took him from his own chariot, placed him in the one he had in reserve, and brought him to Jerusalem, where he died. He was buried in the tomb of his ancestors, and all Judah and Jerusalem mourned him. Jeremiah also composed a lamentation for Josiah, which is recited to this day by all the male and the female singers in their lamentation for Josiah. These have been made an ordinance for Israel and can be found written in the Lamentations. The rest of the act of the Josiah, he's got these in accord with what is written in the law of the Lord. And his words, first and last, are recorded in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. 2 Chronicles chapter 36, Jehoahaz. The people of the land took Jehoahaz, the son of the Josiah, and made him king in Jerusalem to succeed his father. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he became king, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. The king of Egypt deposed him in Jerusalem and fined the land 100 talent of the silver and a talent of the gold. Then the king of Egypt made Eliakim, the brother of the Jehoahaz, king over Judah and Jerusalem, changing his name to Jehoiakim. Necho took Jehoahaz his brother away and brought him to Egypt. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, attacked and bound him in chains to take him to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar also carried away to the Babylon some of the vessels of the house of the Lord and put them in his palace in Babylon. The rest of the act of the Jehoiakim, the abominable things that he did, and what therefore happened to him, are recorded in the book of the king of Israel and Judah. His son Jehoiachin succeeded him as king. Jehoiachin was 80 years old when he became king, and he reigned 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight. At the turn of the years, King Nebuchadnezzar sent for him and had him brought to the Babylon, along with the precious vessel for the house of the Lord. He made his brother Zedekiah king over Judah and Jerusalem. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God, and he did not humble himself before Jeremiah the prophet, who spoke for the Lord. He also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, who had made him swear by God. He became stiff-necked and hardened his heart rather than return to the Lord, the God of Israel. Likewise, all the princes of the Judah, the priests, and the people added treachery to treacheries, practicing all the abomination of the nation and defiling the Lord's house, which he had consecrated in Jerusalem. The fall of the Judah. Early and often the Lord, the God of their ancestors, sent his messenger to them, for he had compassion on his people and his dwelling place. But they mocked God's messenger, despised his words, and scoffed at his prophet, until the Lord's anger against his people blazed up beyond remedies. Then he brought up against them the king of the Chaldeans, who killed their young men with the sword in their own sanctuaries, with compassion for neither young men nor the young women, neither the old nor the infirm. All of them he delivered into his power. All the utensils of the house of the God, large and small, the treasure of the Lord's house, and the treasure of the king and his princes, all these be brought to the Babylon. They burned the house of the God, tore down the wall of the Jerusalem, burned down all its palaces, and destroyed all its precious objects. Those who escaped the sword he carried captive to the Babylon, where they became servants to him and his son until the Persian kingdom came to power. All this was fulfilled the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah, until the land has retrieved its lost Sabbath. During all the time it lies waste, it shall have rest while 70 years are fulfilled. Decree of the Cyrus. In the first year of the Cyrus, the king of the Persia, in order to realize the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah, the Lord allowed the spirit of the Cyrus, king of the Persia, to spread this proclamation throughout his kingdom, both by word of the mouth and in writing. Thus says Cyrus, king of the Persia, the Lord the God of heaven has given to me all the kingdom of the earth. He has also charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is Judah, all among you. Therefore, who belong to his people, may their God be with them, and let them go up.